We're live now?
Yep.
All right. If anybody, guys, something's going on. I don't know what's going on a technical sense. We might, you know what? You want to just scrap this? You want to just start over? What do you think?
I don't know, man. We're live right now.
We are live. Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? That should tell you right there that we shouldn't give up on your dreams. I almost gave up on this stream because we had some technical difficulties. But as Glover Teixeira told us tonight, never give up on your dreams. And it has cost mine and Ben's dream to recap this without any glitches. I guess I will say these glitches are like the Anthony Johnson 13-second knockout, the Corey Anderson snooze fest. But, of course, let's get into it. Main event, UFC 267. We had Glover Teixeira taking on, challenging for the title against Jan Blachowicz. I'm all screwed up because I'm so ecstatic that Glover Teixeira won a UFC title as he got a second round submission. Ben, I mean, just start talking about it.
All right. We talked about on the preview how 7 years ago, this would have sounded like the most unlikely UFC title fight ever. Teixeira, the guy that had visa problems and got kicked back to Brazil, and looked to have missed his window, and Blachowicz, the guy who came in from KSW, lost 3 of his first 5 fights and just looked kind of pedestrian. Those guys are going to be fighting for a title in 2021, and it's going to be a legit title fight, no weird smoke and mirrors, and it's going to be a fight that fans are looking forward to and are invested in.
I almost gave up on this stream.
Hell. Yeah, ridiculous.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, going into this one, Blachowicz, one of the most consistently overlooked, dismissed, underrated fighters in the entire sport, was finally a betting favorite, 3-1. And what happens? He gets not only upset, but steamrolled.
Yeah. And I apologize, guys, if anybody heard any background noise. It was I had our YouTube up trying to see if the glitches are over, and of course, I started hearing my big loud mouth. So I'm watching this. So let's do the X's and O's first. We'll talk about the impact of the fight later, but let's just do the boring stuff. We'll do the X's and O's. I'm watching this fight, and Glover Teixeira gets takedown away, and I was like, "Well, it's fantastic." And I'm watching the first round, and Glover Teixeira really doesn't do much. He holds him down. He is top pressure. I'm trying to think of ways how this is a positive. I'm like, well, first of all, he won the round, so obviously that's a positive. He's up 1 round, nothing. He needs to win 2 more rounds and then survive. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Then I go, you know what? That's still a 205-pound, probably closer to 220 at this point, laying on top of a guy. Glover's, known for his heavy top pressure. I'm like, that's carrying that weight. Maybe that tires him down. I look over the corner. I see Jan kind of leaning over. I go, let's not look into it. Then the second round. So I'm trying to stay positive because I'm really, we don't really publicly root for fighters. But every once in a while we have to make an exception. And I was really honest with it. He's a Southern New England guy. But besides that, he's just an amazing story. Other than from being from Poland, or if you were a big bettor and you bet on Jan Blachowicz, everyone else for the most part was hoping to see Glover Teixeira. One of the good guys in sports, always been there. What do they say? Always the bridesmaid, never the bride kind of thing. This is his moment. So I'm trying to think positive. Then I start watching the second round, and Glover Teixeira goes for a takedown. And you can see the takedown coming from a mile away. Jan Blachowicz stuffs it. And I'm like, oh, shit, the fight's over. He's going to get knocked out soon. Jan's starting to open up. He's starting to land some shots. Then he goes for a second takedown. He stuffs it again. And I'm like, oh, no. This is good. This is really go bad.
And stuffs it easy. Pancakes it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then he lands this left hook. And when he lands this left hook, it rattles Jan Blachowicz, and it gave enough time for Glover Teixeira to go in for a double leg, which he switched to a single. He ran what's called Lewis on it, where you actually, or where you bring it underneath you instead of kind of like a traditional. He went opposite side, brought it underneath him, ended up getting the top control, and then it was over. It was absolutely tremendous showing when he got on top, his top pressure. Jan made a big mistake by giving up his back. I don't get that. He wasn't even in that bad of a position. He was kind of in this 3/4 of a mount. He wasn't completely mounted. You can't make a mistake with Glover Teixeira on the ground.
You can't, and I wonder if there's something else going on there. Because, I mean, for one thing, the takedown ended with Blachowicz almost seeming to like go for a leg lock. Like he'd already conceded the takedown and was just trying to salvage anything out of it, and then gave up his back really quickly and was tapping instantly.
Yeah.
As soon as Teixeira had it locked up, to the point that I expected that we were going to find out that like he'd had his jaw broken or dislocated, and he tapped out of pain as soon as the arm was across. But Blachowicz said no, it was a clean rear naked choke, and no excuses. Like no. I'm not diminishing what Teixeira did at all, but Blachowicz looked so out of sorts, especially in the last minute of the fight, that I do wonder if we're going to hear that something else was going on. But either way, you know what? If your face hurt real bad and you had to tap out, the other guy did that to you and he won the fight. Like again, no excuses, but it was almost anticlimactic the way it ended, except that it ended with us being able to celebrate Glover Teixeira finally winning a UFC title.
Yeah, absolutely. And guys, we want to apologize for some technical difficulty in the very beginning.
Dude, we look and sound great right now.
Okay, cool.
Apologize. Let's just tell lies and rock on.
Yeah. It's absolutely downpouring in southern New England right now. And you know what? There's still people all over the place out in the streets celebrating. I should be outside jumping in puddles right now, going crazy, because I don't give a shit if he was born in Brazil. Glover Teixeira is one of ours, and I'm going to tell you right now, my man Ben is writing an article, which they do for what's it, about every decade or so, where you say, who's the best fighter from such and such state? Glover Teixeira needs to be from Connecticut, my man.
Nope.
Put him in it.
That one's going out on Tuesday.
No,
Glover
change
Teixeira
it.
is the greatest.
Change it.
No, that's what I'm saying. Glover Teixeira, he's going to go down as the greatest mixed martial artist from Connecticut.
Okay, I'm sorry. I apologize. I thought you were saying you already picked. Okay.
No.
I did my due diligence. I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, Nick Newell.
Nick Newell or William Knight or whoever. I'm sorry. Yeah. Glover Teixeira is ours. Southern New England. And notice I keep saying Southern New England, then all of New England, because screw Northern New England. So Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, stand up, Southern New England. Anyways, back to the rear naked choke. I think Glover Teixeira is, he's 42 years old. He's been doing jiu-jitsu since forever. I think he put a rear naked choke, and he squeezed harder than he has ever done in his entire life. I think you're right about the jaw. I apologize. My dog is barking. This is what happens when you do a show at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But I lost track because I'm distracted. Incredible performance. I watched Glover Teixeira, and I don't know, like, his takedowns are kind of slow. He's not the strongest guy. He's lost hand speed. His chin is kind of faded. All those things that I see wrong with this guy, he still finds a way to win. And he really hasn't had a close fight. Like, he hasn't had a war way to win a split decision. He's getting stoppages. I'm absolutely blown away with this. Talk about it again.
Yeah. He had only a few avenues to victory here. I said on the preview, like, he still maintained a certain amount of power. And it's not like wind up, one shot knockout power, just kind of like rolls of nickels in the hands power. Like, just everything hurts. He's going to catch you with something that doesn't look that hard, and you're going to be on Queer Street. That's what happened here. But aside from that, like, his top position grappling was the way he was going to beat Jan Blachowicz, and we both agreed that the problem is he didn't really have the wrestling entries anymore to get it down, except he did.
Yes, it's one of those ones where I think we just got to stop saying it. Like, it looks slow, but it's effective. Like, Michael Chiesa's takedowns always look really slow, but somehow effective.
Yeah.
What I think is his entries aren't that good, but his chain wrestling is really good. The way he he turns corner, he understands angles very, very well, and that's why it's so effective. And then when he gets it down, when he actually gets him to the ground, it's over. It's a wrap. You got to stop putting him in, like, when and I don't want to go down this road because we have so much stuff to go. But when we start talking about all-time greatest grapplers, MMA grappling, like, he's not going to be – he's getting in the club. He's not getting the VIP section of the club. You know what I mean? That's David Maia, Charles Leclerc, whatever. But he's getting in the club for sure. And if there's a light heavyweight section, like, he might be head of the table.
And he's got – it's a different kind. It's very MMA focused because it is this beautiful combination of heavy ground and pound that he can throw it from full guard, half guard, mount. No matter what position you're in, you're not safe from, like, those fists coming at your face. he's also always looking either for positional advance or just to quickly, move to the back and choke you out. And as slow as he is on the feet, his transitions on the ground are still shockingly fast. I was reminded of that in the Thiago Santos fight, where he just took his back in a heartbeat, even though he was rocked, finished a takedown, advanced position. And it happened here against Blachowicz again. Teixeira looks slow on the feet, but once he's on the ground, it's like a shark beached on the land versus a shark in the water.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So let's go and talk about all the nice stuff about it. Alan McDonald, shout out to Alan. He's always here at chat, and he's one of the great listeners. He talked about one of the nice moments was Glover Teixeira hugging Big Nog, them almost crying.
That got me.
Yeah.
I can't even think about it right now. It got me teared up. Seeing Big Nog.
Seeing Dan Cormier tearing up, just these nice moments. He kisses Dan. The moment that got me was when he was talking to Dan Cormier, and he goes, "I've been thinking about this for 20 years, thinking about what I would say for 20 years, and now he was just in the moment. He couldn't talk." That was such a nice moment. Now, I want to say this because Dan Cormier said on the broadcast, I know I could be you, this is not against Jan Blachowicz. He is one of the nicest dudes. He's a great dude. This is simply about watching a guy for 20 years be so close, finally get a moment. It truly is inspirational because 5 years ago, he was such a long shot. There would have been there was a better chance of Brock Lesnar coming out of retirement from WWE at that time, and Ronda Rousey coming back, and there was so many other things more likely.
Dude, 5 years ago, he looked more likely to be out of the UFC in 2021 than the champ. I would, if you asked me in 2016, I would have been like, Glover Teixeira has lost 4 straight in 2021, and he's either about to retire or get booted out of the UFC.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it's the opposite.
Absolutely. And Kyle threw out the Hasbulla. It was in the crowd. We're definitely going to talk about a little bit of Hasbulla in a second, but I don't want to steal the shine from Glover Teixeira for a minute. Same thing that you were saying. If you told me 5 years ago Glover Teixeira was winning a title, I'd have been like, what is he beating? Greg Rebello and CES? That's the kind of thing I was. Now, I expect Glover Teixeira to have one of those fall off the cliff moments. I mean, he's 42. He was never the greatest athlete anyways. You know what I mean? That's going to happen, which is why, and it obviously doesn't look this way, this is why I wish this was his moment. I wish he just said, you know what? I reached my goal 20 years. This is the last year see me. I wish he retired.
Me too, but he did the opposite of retire. He stood there and pointed his finger at the most breathtaking offensive striker in the division.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dude, size cup do you wear that at age 42 after that performance you point at Yuri Prohaska and say, "Come on down"? Wow.
And he even tells him come in the cage. He wanted to share his moment with somebody else. I just think about go back to Alexander Gustafsson fight, where it's a 5-round war, and by war it's 5 rounds of getting your face smashed in by Alexander Gustafsson until he puts you out. I think about Corey Anderson, 7 takedowns on him in that fight. I think about Anthony Johnson knocking him out in 13 seconds. This is what I think of. And now he's the best light heavyweight in the world. Now, of course, with Glover Teixeira, he's not going to get the respect that a John Jones or something like that gets. And
right on cue, Kyle in the chat is asking about him versus Corey Anderson or Vadim Nemkov. Yep.
Ben, I'm a professional. I was getting to that, my man.
Oh, I'm so sorry. That's what I get for interrupting.
I was doing that on purpose. Anyways, yeah, so he doesn't have the top of the pound-for-pound rankings. When the Sherdog rankings come out this week, spoiler alert, he's not going to be on the top 5. He's going to be in there, but but I don't know where I was going with this. I was just going to do the Corey Anderson and Nemkov question. What I just love for a time being, a moment in time, Glover Teixeira is going to be number 1 on our in our Sherdog light heavyweight rankings, and Michael Bisping is the fight I think of that moment where, people hated Bisping, but when he won the title, everyone celebrated. I guess Charles Oliveira has a little bit of that going with him with when he won the title. A little bit different, but he had a little bit of almost feels like a lifetime achievement award than you're the best ever. Can you think of any other examples and yes. Throw that out to the chat where other guys
one of the most formative moments for me as when the beginning of my fandom, first few years of my fandom, was when Evan Tanner won the UFC middleweight title. And even on that night, I didn't think he was the best middleweight on the planet. I knew Rich Franklin was coming down to 185. I knew he was coming down to 185 specifically to get some stability to that division. But for one night only, he was a champ. And I shed tears that night. I'm gonna do it again if I go into it. But that's the other time that I think of that. The stars aligned and Evan Tanner won the UFC middleweight title. That's what it reminds me of.
Yeah, absolutely. No, I think the Evan Tanner, and fairness, it was a much different MMA. He beat David Terrell to win the title at that time.
The division was a mess.
But yeah, I think it's a good example. He's in the books all time. And another reason why I wanted Glover Teixeira to win the title, and I want to jump on Alex Alberto G. He's already picking other guys to knock him out, and I get that. I understand that. Glover Teixeira is going to be an underdog to Yuri Prochazka. He's going to be underdogs to other guys in the division. I 100% believe. I'm not calling Glover Teixeira a paper champion or something like that, but I get what he's saying. I just for the rest of his life, Glover Teixeira is in the record books. When we think about because there's guys who's held UFC titles that didn't have as good of a career as Glover Teixeira. You know what I mean? There's maybe guys in this division that doesn't have, guys who've held the title in this division who hadn't had better careers up to this point than Glover Teixeira. I mean, Glover Teixeira, not that the UFC Hall of Fame is the accomplishment that other sports Hall of Fame, but he put himself in the Hall of Fame. If he never wins another fight in his career, he's going to the Hall of Fame now.
He is, and yeah, absolutely. You compare him to, even before tonight, compare him to someone who won the title and never defended it, like Forrest Griffin or Rashad Evans. His overall resume is better, but he has now moved from the Bisping category of one of the greatest guys never to win a UFC title to the whole story about you changes.
Yeah.
Just,
Yeah, and I don't, when I say that Glover Teixeira is the underdog to the guys coming up, I'm not saying that he would lose to them. As Tom Clary's pointing out, he's saying that he's giving a path that Glover Teixeira can win. Yeah, I actually could 100% see the path that Tom is throwing out there. I'm just saying betting lines, he's going to be the underdog. At least I assume so. So,
dude, he's going to be a huge underdog to whoever he defends against first.
Yeah.
If he rematched Jan Blachowicz immediately, if they fought again in 4 months, he'd be the underdog again.
It'd be close. It'd be probably close to a pick'em, but yeah, even if he came in as a slight favorite, he just ran right through him. Mm-hmm. There was a couple nice clean shots by Jan Blachowicz, but for the most part, it was Glover Teixeira. Besides being in the all-time record book and being in the titles, I also like that it's the light heavyweight division because we remember when it was the glamour division. Mm-hmm. When Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz, that trio that was all around the same time. Tito got the title from, I know it was vacant, but got the title after Frank Shamrock, who was the face of the UFC. Go over to Pride, and you had Vanderlei Silva and Ricardo Arona and Little Nog and Shogun and Lyoto Machida. The names of that division, the greatest fighter of all time, in my opinion, John Jones. It's the division. And now, at least for 4 or 5 months, the top guy in that division is Glover Teixeira. I'm so ecstatic for this moment. Next, he called out Yuri Prochazka. No brainer. That's the next one.
Yes, especially because it removes any talk of an immediate title rematch.
Yeah, and I don't think what happened in the fight. Also, Blachowicz had one title defense. So it's not like he was this long reigning champion. There was no controversy in the fight, nothing like that. So what do we do with that? What do we do with Jan Blachowicz? Because he's 37, so he doesn't have that much time. 38. Oh, I'm sorry, 38. He's 38, so he doesn't have that much time either. He didn't fall off too far, and maybe 42 is the new trend in the division, so maybe he does have some time. If you're running the UFC, who are you offering him?
Well, I'm going to have to tie two things together here because obviously there was another very important light heavyweight fight on this main card. But if you're a true believer in Magomed Ankalaev, you could make Ankalaev versus Blachowicz right now, but I don't want to. Okay. I want to send Jan Blachowicz to fight Anthony Smith, Ankalaev to fight like Alexander Rakic or somebody.
So Ankalaev is an option for him. So this is how I do it. When I do my notes, and obviously I'm going from the bottom to the top when I'm writing my notes, because I'm writing my notes while we're watching live. And I said, all right, who am I going to put Ankalaev against next? And I made the mistake that I assumed Jan Blachowicz was going to win. And I was giving Petrovski the win. And I'm like, I don't really want to see if Glover Teixeira keeps fighting. And I kind of was picturing Glover Teixeira get knocked out. I'm like, I don't really want old man to be a springboard for young guys. So I didn't even give him the loser of the main event. I went with, and I'll tell you, well, I'll save it for when I go. So because I already matched up Ankalaev, I had to give Blachowicz someone else. I didn't go as low as Anthony Smith. I went with Alexander Rakic. As in,
okay, so you're just, and I considered the other way, like having Ankalaev fight Smith or somebody. I just think he needs to fight, and we'll get to that when we get to that. But I would have been fine with Rakic or Smith for either of those two guys.
Yeah. So Divago throws a thing out there, and this is a good point. He talks about Izzy going up to light heavyweight and how it, Jan Blachowicz didn't run through it, but his wrestling, his grappling, it was the difference. And then we just saw him get out grappled. So one, that's another thing to give Glover Teixeira credit for. We saw Jan Blachowicz being effective with his grapple. This isn't the one that lost to Patrick Cummins, at UFC 210. This was a much more well-rounded. He basically thrown out there like he would have been shocked. He said that Glover Teixeira's durability and MMA grappling is, would have taken over Izzy. I would say this, like Izzy went back up and fought Glover Teixeira. There's definitely the avenue to victory for Glover. And you got to feel good about that avenue of victory. But that's a little bit of an MMA math thing going too far. Like, Izzy also expected Blachowicz to stand with him a little bit more, so compared to Teixeira, who would be looking to wrestle more. That might change how he fights. But, man, anyways, that's the main event. Let's move on because we're going to be talking about it. But congratulations to Glover Teixeira. So Glover Teixeira won his first title. Petr Yan has won his second title. This time it's an interim title as he beat Corey Sandhagen by unanimous decision. And I think all three judges had it 49-46. A fight that was much closer than a 49-46 scorecard, which indicate I gave it 48-47. I gave Corey Sandhagen 2 rounds. I actually gave him the second round. What did you have? Did you have the 49, the 48? What did you have?
I had 49-46, but as far as I'm concerned, there's a range of scorecards that are acceptable here. I thought Sandhagen pretty clearly won the first round. I thought Yan obviously won the third with like the knockdown with the spinning back fist and follow up. But the other 3 rounds, 2, 4, and 5, were all very competitive. This didn't feel like a 49-46 fight, even though I scored it that way.
See, I felt 4 was pretty clear for Yan.
Okay, yeah, like that's another one where I didn't really have to consider whether Sandhagen won it.
Yeah, so I was sitting there, and I'm okay with a 49-46 scorecard for Yan. I went 48-47. I gave the second to Sandhagen, but to me it was very close. It kind of came down to volume versus power. What at that moment you thought was more effective. But I was sitting there, and I'm listening to John Anik and DC and all them, and they're doing that. Like, they haven't announced the winner yet, but they're doing that. Like, wow, Yan gets the title again. They're kind of giving it like it's inevitable. And I'm sitting there, and I'm like, there's a chance. And it didn't happen, and it wasn't close to happening based on the judges' scoring. But I'm saying he won the first round for sure.
Yep.
The second round was close. And the fifth round was close. And I'm sitting there, and I go, there's a chance, and I would actually be okay with it if Corey Sandhagen wins 48-47. I didn't score it that way. So before you guys kill me, I didn't score it that way. I was thinking it. No, it didn't happen. Did that thought even crush your mind?
It would have more so if they hadn't been fighting where they were, but there was such a huge pop for Yan for everything he did. And the UFC booth, especially for the first half of the fight, like the first 2.5 rounds, it was all kind of like the story of Petr Yan. Like, even the things Sandhagen did, it was like phrased as kind of like, how he was foiling the protagonist. Like, they just were clearly telling the story of Petr Yan. So,
very Joe Rogan-ish. When Joe Rogan has a narrative and he just sticks
Yep.
to it and he convinces everybody that's the narrative.
It's exactly, that's exactly
Like
it.
Joe Rogan used to have this narrative of Cain Velasquez ruined people's careers, and then you're like, JDS is still doing pretty damn good. I guess it's true about Bigfoot Silva. I guess.
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's do it opposite. Let's talk about Corey Sandhagen first before we talk about the champ.
Okay.
I don't think it was a bad showing at all. I thought it was a very good showing for him. I actually thought he did everything he needed to do. I think he had a great strategy. I feel like it was one of those quarterback is playing, he threw for 500 yards and his team lost. And it's, what are you going to do? I played great. It happens. Because to me, he had great movement. His output was smart to just basically, he knows Jan's a little lower output guy, try to bank rounds, which he was doing. I love his variety. I love that. Like, I love his stack. It was so different every single time. It'd be like jab, then it'd be body punch, then it'd be like, I'm going to grab your hands, I'm going to load up for a big shot, then I'm going to just touch, then I'm going to sneak, try for a takedown. Now I'm going to come in and throw a slicing elbow, and now I'm going to come up with a step-in knee, as somebody else in the chat pointed out. Like, I love that he had so much variety, so much. He always had Jan guessing, but then it still didn't work out for him. But it still was like I feel like it was a great showing.
It was a great showing. It was, I agree with all that. And just in terms of strict physical tools, obviously the big story on Yan is like blinding hand speed in his combinations. But in light of that, I thought Sandhagen's hands looked really good.
I
his
agree.
own hands were fast.
I agree.
His punches were straight. He's very much a hand fighter, like a grabber, and to the point, just grab your hand as you circle and tries to sneak something in. It didn't completely stop Yan, obviously, but it kept him from really, really going off. It's notable that his biggest offense in the fight was off of a spinning back fist and a huge hook. Like, he never really got his 4 or 5 punch combinations going. Sherdog associate editor Jay Petry asks through the Sherdog Slack, would this fight have looked significantly different if Sandhagen had had a full camp?
Well, that's a very good question. Now, I know his thing he was saying was, I knew that Aljamain Sterling was dropping out, so I kind of already had a full camp. Could be just promotional, what word I'm looking for? Just promotional. What you say? Oh, this is the best camp I've had in my life. You say that.
Sure.
I'm injury free. Everyone's always. No one ever says they have an injury before the fight. One of those things. It's a great question, and honestly, I completely forgot. I completely forgot that Petr Yan was not supposed to fight Corey Sandhagen. He was supposed to fight Aljamain Sterling. When you have a guy that is such a mystery, or I shouldn't say mystery, he's a riddle. Like, trying to solve the riddle of Petr Yan because he's so freaking good. And your best avenue of victory is probably footwork and hand speed and footwork and output. Yeah, I think Jay makes a really, it's a good question. I don't know. I mean, it was so close that a full camp can't hurt.
And any differences would be really incremental, because it's not as though Sandhagen slowed down or gassed out.
No.
We're both saying that you could have given him the 5th round, and it wouldn't have raised any eyebrows. My thought is, I picked Sandhagen to win this. I knew it was an upset. I knew it would be an upset. I knew why Yan was such a heavy favorite. But Sandhagen did exactly what I would have drawn up.
Mm-hmm.
Please do this to give yourself the best chance of beating Petr Yan. And he got fairly closer than the official scorecards it probably indicated.
Yeah.
And he might have done a little better on a 3-month camp instead of a 1-month camp, but I didn't walk out of there thinking, oh, well, yeah, full camp Sandhagen dusts this guy. He already put on pretty much the best performance he could have against this opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. So Petr Yan is, I'm still concerned. I have concerns over his strategy of the kind of start off slow. I mean, we've seen it be effective for so many guys. Lyoto Machida does it. John Jones did it. He kind of start off. Anderson Silva did it. Those are 3 of the best ever. Start off slow, kind of learn, pick up the tells, set traps. His stuff that he does is beyond my striking knowledge. But little things he does. But he is the perfect. So that's I'm still worried that that's going to burn him one time. That he's just going to give away rounds and then he's going to lose a round late. And then that, you know what I mean? When you put yourself in a bad, it was kind of like the. Remember Tim? I know I bring up football a lot. It's football season, but when Tim Tebow had this run with the Broncos where they had to like keep coming back from behind. You're like, well, that's not going to keep happening. That's kind of what he's doing. Now, I understand that they're not apples and oranges. One is he's learning. It's different. I get this. There's only so many analogies I can come up with, guys. All right. But I'm worried that he's going to do his come from behind, get the late rounds, and one time it's just going to be too late. But he is the perfect example. Like when I always talk about being a builder, Petr Yan is the perfect example. Like I always use Max Holloway, but the way he builds is much different than Max Holloway. Max Holloway builds by just upping the output. As his opponent's cardio is going this way, Max's output goes this way.
Yeah.
The offense that's coming back at him is decreasing, and his offense is increasing. So he's gapping out the difference between output. Petr Yan is not even just his output picks up, but his effectiveness of his striking. Yes. His punches land cleaner now. They land more. He knows where you're going to turn. It's like he has a cheat code. He's got the answers to the test in front of him, and he's just landing. Yeah. It's such a beautiful thing.
Max Holloway, prime Tony Ferguson, they would roll downhill. They would just be doing the same thing they were in the first round, only harder while you're getting more tired. They're rolling downhill. It's a force of nature thing. Petr Yan is like dialing in a sniper rifle while shooting you. It's just hitting you harder and harder and making little tiny adjustments.
Yeah, that's right. Agree. Yeah, he really is a thing. I was watching this fight, and especially as he started taking over third, fourth round, landing power shots, clean shots. And I was just thinking to myself, if I'm Aljamain Sterling, awful. That little neck injury I got, the little injury might not be feeling too good, you know? I gained a lot of weight because I had to sit on the couch and neck injury, and I can't make 135 anymore. I got to fight at 145. One of those things might be going through my mind.
Yeah, that was not an encouraging sight. Yan just looks better and better every time out.
Is it fair? Let me ask this question, and I hate doing this, but I know people in the chat say it, and everyone's calling Petr Yan the official champion and all this. Is that fair?
No, of course not.
Okay.
I mean, now, having said that, if for some reason Sterling couldn't return for another year and they just decided to actually fully strip him and make Yan the undisputed champ, I wouldn't feel as though there'd need to be an asterisk on the rest of his career. Because I think he was winning that fight.
Yeah.
But I think he, as well as Sterling, probably want an unambiguous end to that rivalry before either of them move on.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the sense, Aljamain Sterling almost has nothing to lose because no one really views him as the best bantamweight in the world. I mean, by rankings, you have to put him there, but by the criteria of rankings, if you're stick to it, but no one views him as the best. So
nobody views him at the best, and it's partly obviously due to what happened in the fight, and then the fact that he had to back out with an injury for the rematch, so that people who already thought, oh, this guy is scared, he's chicken. Yeah, and the UFC itself is not helping. I mean, it would have been great if Sterling was there to walk into the cage, after the co-main event, but I mean, there was a bus on top of him that Dana threw there, so they couldn't get him out from under it.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's some refreshing things about Dana White when he gives his opinion, and then there's also like, come on, man. And then they use it in the promos of him saying, I thought he was okay. He kind of melted a little bit. Yeah, not good. Obviously, that's the matchup to make next. Unify the title. What do we do in Sandhagen? Because while he's had two really good showings in a row, and you could make an argument he won both. This one a little bit harder than the T.J. Dillashaw argument, but he's still in a 2-fight losing streak now.
He can stand to take a little bit of a step back, but not too much of one.
Because he's really good.
Match him up with a guy on the outskirts of the top 15, he's just going to dust him.
Yeah.
There are two big fights coming in December. There's Aldo versus Font. I don't need to see an Aldo rematch, but if Font wins, I want Font versus Sandhagen at all costs. That's the matchup I want most of the bantamweight division right now. If that's too much, or if Font is too close to a title shot, make it the winner of Dominic Cruz versus Pedro Munoz.
Yeah, and I think if Cruz wins, that would probably be the match they make because of the styles. And when he was coming up, even though he fights much differently than Dominic Cruz, it's really unfair. It was a lazy comparison because he had so much movement. But I could see them making that matchup because it's the master of that style versus the new guy in the block. The guy I'm going with, I'm giving Merab his shot. Merab Dvalishvili, he's on this huge winning streak. He deserves a big shot. That could be a main event. Sandhagen deserves a main event. Like he just, I know the Dillashaw fight was a main event and this and that,
but that was because of Dillashaw.
Because of Dillashaw. I mean, they even had like a program about Dillashaw for the return, and then this one he gets the title fight. He gets it on, short notice. Sandhagen versus Merab in the main event.
And that was going to be my
fight night.
If he doesn't want to wait, yeah.
I'm talking about fight night, guys. Yeah.
If he doesn't want to wait for one of these December matchups, and then to turn around, if we want someone right now, that's ready to start a camp right now, Merab would be it, and they'd be an interesting test for each other. Yeah,
and that's the kind of style that Sandhagen has. Like he'd probably want to get right back in there, though. He probably should take a longer camp, take some time off. I don't think that's him. Anything else you want to talk about this before we move on?
Other than, very obvious fight of the night. I don't see the official awards yet, but what else could it possibly be?
Yeah, we got to look at. Where's our buddy Andre out there? Andre, if you're still watching, if you have the awards, let us know when you have the awards. But we just said that Sandhagen would probably get in there as soon as possible, kind of doing his best version of Dan Hooker. Speaking of Dan Hooker, I know that was bad of me because Dan Hooker took on Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev had he had his oh shit moment. He had his breakout moment. This was his I'm the best lightweight in the world. I've been saying it forever. Everybody's scared of me. Nobody wants to fight me, and here's why. I mean, he ran. Dan Hooker, say what you want through him. Michael Chandler did, but take him down and submit him with a Kimura.
And it's just one-way traffic the whole time.
Yeah, it was. I was so impressed by Islam Makhachev tonight.
Same.
I mean, his ground game it's on another level. Like I don't know if I'm putting it at the Khabib level, but this is kind of what Khabib was doing on his way up, take it down and
yes,
Kimura, just muscle a Kimura on a guy.
Mm-hmm.
That's so impressive.
And once he had it locked up, it was inevitable. You could see it coming from about 15 seconds out because you're like, he's gonna crank it, he's gonna step over the head, he's gonna finish cranking it, and nothing is gonna stop this. There's literally nothing Hooker can do between now and when he taps.
Yeah. Now both
when he screams.
Yeah, I know. And his arm was so far bent behind his arm. I thought he was gonna break his arm. Being how tough Dan Hooker is, I'm like, come on. I would say don't do it, Dan. Just tap out. Scream, tap out. Don't let him break your arm. It's not because it's just not worth it. You don't have to prove how tough you are. You know what I mean? You're freaking Dan Hooker. You proved that a long time ago. You know what? You proved it when you took on willing to take on Islam Makhachev. By the way, on short notice, who was supposed to fight Rafael dos Santos. So here's the situation right now with Makhachev. He besides having such a great moment in the cage, ran through Dan Hooker, he also had a great mic moment. I always feel like when the guy who nobody wants to fight, they need that mic moment. I think about the perfect example of why I think of him first is his main guy, the guy he learns from his main training partner, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He always gets compared to it. Khabib had the moment when he said, Dana, whatever he said, I'm coming for you, the big chicken, talking about McGregor. What did he say? Something like Russia, I forgot what the word was. Russia, Ireland, 5 million, Russia, 100 million, or whatever that was his big moment. I think about George St. Pierre when he said to Matt Hughes, I'm not impressed by your performance.
I am not impressed by your performance.
Yeah, there's always those. I mean, even a Nate Diaz. Why did Nate Diaz jump the line for Conor McGregor? You stole everything I worked for. I felt him saying calling for the title, and the way he kind of said these other guys already had the chance. They're just business. I'm coming for the actual championship. I don't know if I want to remember it. I'm not impressed by your form and stuff like that. But he added character to just his dominance too, and that goes a long way. So my question is do you think, this is not matchmaking yet, Simply just pure prediction. The next time Islam Makhachev steps in the cage, is it for a title?
No.
No. Okay, so you're going.
And it's not because he doesn't deserve it. It's because there's too much that needs to sort itself out ahead of him.
Okay. Let me rephrase this. Oh, let me go a different avenue. And I want to throw this out to the chat too. So, guys in the chat, let us know. Islam Makhachev versus, say, Charles Oliveira wins the title. Say they do make that matchup. Who's the favorite? Heading in, I'm not asking for your prediction, but just who's the betting
What you
favorite?
think the line will be?
Yeah.
I think Makhachev is the betting favorite going into that.
Okay. Same question. Dustin Poirier wins. Who's the betting favorite?
Islam Makhachev is the betting favorite going into that.
Yeah, he's starting to carry this Habib invincibility. Like I said on the preview show, that this invincibility about him, like he doesn't have it, that Habib, because we've seen him lose. Well, he's not gonna have the O next to his name, but he's starting to carry that invincibility. I mean, we both picked Makhachev to win.
Yeah,
but we both said like the betting lines were way off. Like he shouldn't be a near 7-1. Well, apparently he should have been like a 10-1.
Right, because we both focused on, the threats that Hooker posed that RDA didn't. Like RDA might be a tougher, more durable guy, a grindier guy, but didn't have like the quick strike offense that Hooker did. It didn't matter because he didn't get any offense off at all. He got run the hell over.
Yeah, and Sword's song agrees with us. He did put out there recency bias. I don't know if he's saying that's his own recency bias or that's Vegas's recency bias. I get that. So now let's do this. I asked you if his next fight is for the title. Let me ask you this now. Should his next fight be for the title?
Yes.
Okay.
It should.
Okay.
Because my thought is that the winner of Chandler versus Gaethje is probably going to get a title shot next, even though both those guys are coming off a loss.
Well, they wouldn't be coming off a loss if they win. But,
right, but I'm saying like each of them is on a one fight
I got
win streak.
Sure.
Whereas Islam is on what, like 9, 10?
I think it's 9 fights. Yeah.
Yeah, 9 fights. Like, and we need a fresh face.
Yeah. So.
And go ahead.
To answer both the questions I asked you. I'll answer the questions I asked you. Will his next fight be for the title? If I had to guess, I'm going to say no. Would he be favored against Charles Oliveira? Yes. Would he be favored against Dustin Poirier? Yes. Obviously, what they do in that fight might change it. If one punches knocks him, or Charles Oliveira takes Dustin Poirier down, submits him 20 seconds, something like that. But right now, obviously, I can only live in this moment. Yes. Should his next fight be for the title? The answer is yes. Now, here's my answer. Now, because these are two separate things. And you and me might answer a little different because you tend to be a little bit more of a purist than I am. I tend to I always try to put myself in the UFC as a promotional. You like to put guys who deserve it. You're running the UFC. Is Islam Makhachev fighting for the title next? Or actually, no, two-part question. No, because his fight next might be for the title, but doesn't mean he got the next title shot. So it's two different questions here. But
right,
matchmaking. What are you doing with him?
Again, if I had my way, he'd fight the winner of Oliveira versus Poirier. I don't think that's going to happen. So you either give him Dariush or you give him the loser of Gaethje versus Chandler. Just keep him busy. Because the other problem with Makhachev is he has that little bit of Khabib where he fights once or twice a year.
Yeah.
Keeping busier is better. Keep him in the public eye. Because, for him to fight Gaethje or Chandler, who would have at that point lost 2 straight, doesn't make a whole lot of sense competitively. But if he trucks Michael Chandler and gets another chance to put out a soundbite, that only helps his marketability.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to do this. I'm going to give one of the worst answers I've ever given what I would do. So this is what I would do and it depends on what happens next week. Obviously, we're going to get our answers. Well, hold on. To me, it's actually going to depend on what happens next week between Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, and it's going to it matters what happens. Was it December between Dustin Poirier challenging Charles Oliveira?
Yeah.
If Charles Oliveira wins and Justin Gaethje wins, I'm giving Justin Gaethje the title shot. Because a win over Michael Chandler, to me, it still means more than a win over Dan Hooker. Okay.
Yes.
If Dustin Poirier wins and Michael Chandler wins, so now two complete opposite results of that one, I'm giving it to Chandler. Because Chandler hasn't lost to Dustin Poirier, he hasn't faced him, and a win over Justin Gaethje is better than a win over Dan Hooker. Okay, so that's the way Gaethje gets a title shot. That's the way Chandler gets a title shot. This is the way Makhachev gets a title shot. If Oliveira wins and Chandler wins, we just saw that, give it to Makhachev. If Poirier wins and Justin Gaethje wins, well, we haven't just saw it, and their first fight was amazing, but we have seen it. I'm going to give it to Makhachev. So, 4 possible results, and my secret formula, that's who gets the next title shot.
That works. I mean, Sword Song in the chat is asking, why not give Makhachev the winner of Gaethje versus Chandler, and the winner of that gets the title fight? If that works timetable-wise,
yes.
Like if that person is ready to go by the time the winner of Oliveira and Poirier is ready to go, that's great. I mean, there is a little extra spice here if we get a Makhachev versus Poirier title fight at some point. Like, Poirier hasn't been humiliated many times like he was by Nurmagomedov. I bet he would like to get it back, if not against Khabib, at least against Khabib's protege and the closest thing he has to a clone, like stylistically in the division.
Yeah, and that's the way you sell that fight too. You know, yeah. My answer to Sword's question, it's a really good question. The issue is you're putting the champion on the shelf for a while. If he has to wait, like he's got to wait, you know, say 4 months for that fight to happen, and then another 4 months. You put the champ on the shelf for 7-8 months. Yeah. But if one of those guys, we'll just say hypothetically, Justin Gaethje knocks Michael Chandler out in the first round, kind of unscathed. Islam Makhachev's unscathed, and then Poirier and Oliveira has an absolute war where the winner of that's going to be out for 6 months, something like that. Then the timetable lines up. Yeah, 100%. That's what you do. Just do like a no more contender matchup.
Yep.
So that's what I would do. So that kind of. So I'm with you, man. Like that's it's lightweight. It's the top lightweight. We can't make a bad fight. So that's what I would do. Real quick before we move on, what do we do with Dan Hooker? Obviously, very good fighter, but seems like he can't get over that hump of the very, very top of the division. What do we do with Dan Hooker next?
I think he needs quite a step back.
Okay.
And he's the perfect guy to give to one of the dudes in that top 10 to 15 fringe area who's been winning fights, deserves a big name, you know, deserves something that could be a fight night main event.
Okay.
You know, like give him a Rafael Fiziev, a Damir
Ismagulov
type.
Well, Ismagulov can't make the weight class anymore, but
no, he's totally he's gonna stop going to the not Ismagulov.
Yeah, so I went a different route. I went with another guy that is kind of in a similar situation where they're ranked, but I feel like they're in the same range of Dan Hooker, where like you either use it to spring other people or you just kind of eliminate them altogether. So I'm gonna give him the shot with RDA. Like he took RDA's place, have him fight RDA, fight night, co-main event, something like that, opening fight of a pay-per-view, something like that. Kyle throws out Grant Dawson.
That works.
Yeah, I mean
for me.
Yeah,
they're on.
All right.
They're very much on the same timetable since Dawson just barely fought.
Yeah, the problem is Dawson didn't win.
He got a draw.
Yeah, I mean, do you,
what else are you gonna do with Dawson?
I mean, do you get a bump up in competition when you got a draw? I don't know. Well, I mean, you got to run it back right now. Before that, we had Alexander Volkov versus Marcin Tybura, and so Volkov. This to me was like the most boring fight of the main card, and it was still a pretty fun fight, especially for a heavyweight that went to a decision. Mm-hmm. Volkov really improved his takedown defense since the Curtis Blades fight. That's the first thing that stands out. The other thing that stood out to me is Marcin Tybura. In the broadcast, did this really well. Like he had to stop going to the double leg. He had to switch things up, maybe go chest to chest, clinch, try to do like a slide by, something like that. He had to change up his attacks. He didn't. And Volkov, to me, and I'm just wrapping up all my thoughts, and I'm gonna let you take over. Volkov, he kind of he kind of gassed out a little bit. It looked like he was turning of the tides in the second round, and then he found a second win in the third round. To me, that just came, and I don't question Volkov's cardio or anything like that because I've seen him go hard for 25 minutes. To me, it was just he came out very fast, probably because he didn't come out fast against Sandhagen. He was so gun shy. So I think that might have been a little bit of motivation. And then it was such a wrestle-heavy fight early when you get that lactic acid in his arms. But once he started, he kind of found a second win. Beautiful teep kicks. Did exactly the way he should win. And one big thing is he wins the inside portions. Even though he's long and he gets all around, he throws the inside shots. When you throw anything loop with him, he always winning the inside punch. That's what I feel. I'll let you take off. That's all I have to say about this fight. Tell me everything you want to talk about.
Takedown defense improved, and I agree with Cormier here. The part of it is just the physical difference. He has put on 25 or 30 pounds from when he was like a 240-pound kind of looked like a Russian league small forward when he came to the UFC. And now he's a dude who probably cuts to make 265, and it's mostly in his legs. It's just it's pure physics. Like, yeah, he's always going to have some of the longest legs in the division, but his legs are thick now. Yeah, he's just a physically hard guy to take down. Tybura, he's this weirdly non-violent heavyweight. Like I've talked before about he's like kind of a minus power guy for someone who's built like he is, and just not a whole lot of urgency. He'll get the kill if he's on top on the ground, but aside from that, it's almost like he's just missing a gear.
Yeah.
I continue to be impressed with Volkov. I don't think he'll ever get over the hump. I don't think he'll ever even get another title shot. There are just too many guys ahead of him that are younger, stronger, bad style matchups for him. But he can stick around in this spot and ruin people's days for a long time. I really like Volkov, even if not all of his fights are appointment watching. That's about all I've got to say about them.
That's fair.
In terms of next matchups, I like Volkov. Again, he can't take a step up because too many of the guys ahead of him are either in a title shot next or have already beaten them. But one possibility, I'd be fine giving the winner of Derek Lewis versus Chris Daukaus, even if it ends up being a Lewis rematch. That wasn't the kind of fight where you're like,
sure,
if they fight 10 times, it's going to end that same way every time. Like, that was a wild fight. Or Alexander Romanov has earned a shot at a big name.
Yeah, and Volkov was winning that fight when Lewis got the knockout, if you remember.
Yeah.
I went with a new fresh face, so I kind of went the same Chris Daukaus route, because we all know Chris Daukaus beating Derek Lewis. I went with Tom Aspinall. I went the other fresh, face. I would put Volkov versus Aspinall, but I'm okay with the Lewis fight. The reason why I wanted to talk, I really wanted to breeze through that fight, because I wanted to get to the real main event. Guys, dude, Khamzat Chimaev is a problem. I'm driving the bandwagon. Shotgun's already been claimed. There's some spots left to jump on, but this is it. This is your last chance. I'm all in on this guy. This guy is special.
Absolutely. I mean, we just talked about Islam Makhachev, and we spent a lot of time on the preview just because there were 4 guys from Eagles MMA. There were 10 Russians on the card. Like, just a lot of guys coming from the same general skills background and how they get different end results out of it based on their strategic preferences, based on their physical gifts. Khamzat Chimaev, he might be the guy who most closely embodies the relentlessness of Khabib Nurmagomedov in the wrestling, in the top control, in that ride against the fence. Maybe even more so than Makhachev. Like, as soon as he got lead down against the fence, it felt very Khabib-like. But then on top of that, he has this just ridiculous blinding hand speed and power, which frankly Khabib never did. Khabib was always surprisingly fast, but Chimaev is blindingly fast. 2016 McGregor vibes, I agree, or 2011 John Jones vibes, where every logical next step they put in front of him, he just runs straight through it, and all of a sudden things that sounded like hyperbole a few months ago sound reasonable. Yeah.
So I'm so glad Swords gave that comparison, because that's the route I was going. It's kind of I'm glad you said John Jones, because that was another route I was going. I was thinking a little bit of Cain Velasquez as he came up. And then, of course, the most obvious one is the Khabib rise. Now, Khabib, obviously, his rise was a little bit slower because of injuries and all that. But I could almost put Khabib in like 2 categories. Like the before Michael Johnson career, and then like the Michael Johnson point forward, because then he was fighting a lot more active. And that's when Good.
That's when his highlights start. The thing is that Chimaev has been a highlight reel all along, whereas Khabib's first 4 or 5 wins in the UFC were a little dry.
Yeah. So he's got the unbelievable run that he's on. He's 4-0 in the UFC, 4 stoppages, and the total strikes, I don't even have it. I mean, I read it last time he fought.
He's absorbed 1 significant strike.
Yeah,
in 4
it's
fights.
1 in 4 fights. He just took out one of the guys that we had ranked on the bubble. I believe the UFC had him in. When I say we, I'm talking about Sherdog. Sherdog's rankings. UFC, I don't know where they had the UFC at, but I believe the UFC had him ranked, and the guy didn't land a single strike on him. The way he set up that first takedown was so unbelievably impressive. Where he came in, it looked like he's going to be a big punch for both of these guys. And instead, he drops underneath to a double leg as fat, that like Olympic level speed. Now, I'm not calling him Olympic level wrestler, so all right, guys, don't come at me with Jordan Barros and Kyle Dake and everything. It was so unbelievable how fast he got on the hips. It was so incredible. Then he picks him up, brings him over to Dana, starts talking shit to Dana, very Habib-like, where Habib was beating up Michael Johnson, saying, "Where's your big Irish chicken?" and all this stuff. Right in front of Hasbulla, which I loved. Like, seeing him in the front row, just, I don't know. I love the whole funny thing with those guys. Him and Habib headbutting each other was fantastic. But puts him down right in front of him. Apparently, according to Kevin Iole, Dana White told Kevin Iole from Yahoo, which obviously a very credible source, is that he was saying, while he was fighting with Li Jingliang, who is, but again, which we kept talking about, a step up in competition for him, he's saying, Dana, he hasn't even got the takedown yet, and he's saying, "I'll fight anybody. Where's Brock Lesnar at?" How can you not absolutely love everything about this guy? I love every single thing between his fighting style, his accent, his delivery, like the way he delivers his trash talk.
Oh.
Like, I love this dude.
Yeah, his delivery is great. Like, I described him in my column last week as affably arrogant. Because
Yes!
you can tell he thinks he's hot shit, but he's not there to have fun at the expense of the other guy. Like, when they were getting ready to announce the official decision and refs getting them lined up, and he kind of reaches around the back of the ref and kicks Lee in the butt. Like, it's just like something you'd expect to see a guy do in the gym to one of his buddies.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
like Lee was like, "Yeah, dude, you got me," you know?
So
That's what I loved about it.
it's Habib-like. Like, Habib was very confident in his own skills. I'm going to smash him, all this stuff. But then also other than Conor McGregor, very respectful. Very respectful to Justin Gaethje, very respectful to Dustin Poirier. But still, like, I'm the best, I'm the most dominant ever. Deal with it.
Yeah.
That's what I get from this guy.
Yeah. And Chimaev is even a little bit, like, more cheerful and smiley about it.
Yeah, he has like a little bit of a Amanda Hebos, a little bit that into him too. Yeah, a little bit Kevin Holland in him.
Yes.
I love it. I was so amazed by his ground control. That area of the world's ground control is better than I've ever seen. Because it's the little details. The way he pulled, there was one point where he couldn't get his leg in because of the cage. The way he turns, I think Paul Felder pointed out, the way he turned Li Jingliang off the cage so he could put a hook in. Just little things he did. The way he adjusted his rear naked chokes, all this stuff. It's absolutely amazing.
It is, but even within this is like Dagestani, Chechen, Caucasus style cage wrestling, there are levels, and that's where I'm like, he's seriously up there with Khabib as like the two best that I've seen do it at the top level.
So I wrote down Habib. I wrote down Khabib's name. I wrote it down, and I wrote ground control was Khabib level, and then I go, don't say it. Like, you've already gone way over the top with him. Don't put Habib's ground level, but it might be, man. It is that freaking good. He was booked against Leon Edwards like 3 times. The fight never happened. Everyone was saying, "Oh, this is too much, too soon," and I agree. I still like that was too much. Not saying he couldn't win. It's more of like Leon Edwards doesn't deserve to have to fight a guy like this. Fight a killer.
Yeah.
If Leon Edwards fought Li Jingliang tonight, I don't think Leon Edwards does to Li Jingliang what Chimaev did.
No. Like Leon Edwards wins a 29-28 decision.
I don't know. I give him 30-27, but yeah, like he doesn't run through him. He doesn't have. We're not going crazy about Leon Edwards right now in this moment. So let's do it. Let's matchmake. This is where I'm going to piss people off. I know I'm going to piss people off. It is what it is. What are we going to do? I'm going to let you give what you do with Chimaev first, and then I'm going to give it. Huh?
Okay, perfect. Here, Alan McDonald says Khamzat versus either Chiesa or Sean Brady. That's the next fight. That makes sense in a logical sense.
Okay.
Those are logical next matchups.
What was it? I'm sorry. It was Sean Brady and who else?
Michael Chiesa.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Especially Chiesa. Okay.
But
all right.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm giving him the highest ranked guy that does not have a direct route to a title shot anytime soon. I'm doing him versus Gilbert Burns.
Oh, wow. Wow.
A top 5 guy that they can test each other, and he's not eliminating another possible immediate title challenger.
Yeah. I didn't realize how much of a fight I want until you said it to me. You know? Yeah, that's a great fight. All right. This is where I'm going to piss people off. So, your answer is going to piss people off because people will say, oh, he beat this guy. He shouldn't have faced top 15 guy. They're going to want something a little bit lower down. Okay. I'm going to really piss people off because I'm going the other extreme. You're giving him where he's probably the underdog or probably should be the underdog based on accomplishments. I'm not saying he will be the underdog, but based on accomplishment. I'm doing the one where he's a massive favorite, a huge favorite to all the hardcores. You, me, everyone who's in here, we're all saying, oh my God, what's a mismatch? He's going to murder him. But I, of course, have that. I always thinking about for the promotion. I think everything what Sword said, he's a star in the making. He has Conor McGregor. Let's give him the fight that's going to get the most eyeballs watching. For months, I was saying that Nick Diaz versus Robbie Lawler was not the fight to make, that it was a waste of a fight. Why? You could only get one fight out of Nick Diaz. You took 5 years. Why waste it on a guy who's 40 years old? Everyone who's watched this show have heard me say it. I was wrong, and I'll tell you how I was wrong. I had the wrong Diaz brother. Nate Diaz has one fight left on his contract. We might never see him again. He's one of the biggest stars ever. Listen, he's done so many things for the sport. He's great, this and that. Sometimes you got to sacrifice one to the gods. Sacrifice him to the gods.
That's a fucking war crime.
Sometimes you got to do it.
It would have to be Nate because if Khamzat versus Nick Diaz happens, they both are missing weight. My concern here is that Chimaev needed the towel cheat to make 171.
Okay.
Like, honestly, the most concern I had this week happened on Friday, not Saturday.
Yeah.
Does that bother you at all?
Yeah. How about him missing weight?
Him missing weight, then coming back, like pushing down on the towel too hard, so he's like 166.
Yeah.
Then kind of letting go real quick, and they do the quick like balance.
Yeah. Swords is saying they're saving Nate for Conor. I'm okay with that. So just because I almost said that too. If they're saving Nate for Conor because you think you have one more shot, this is definitely it. He's hard to deal with. He's hard to work with. We probably can't reach a contract. He might go somewhere else. He might not fight. You want to save it for Conor if you can guarantee a Conor. But this whole like him talking trash with Vicente Luque. Vicente Luque deserves that spotlight fight and all that. But it doesn't work for the UFC. I am 100% with Swords. If you want to save it for Conor, do the trilogy. Cool. But if you don't do the trilogy, Chimaev. And guys, I get it. Chimaev will murder him. I get it. Chimaev could probably beat Nick and Nate on the same night. But he's a star. Like, I haven't watched his post-fight. Someone in the post-fight probably said to him, like, who do you want next? And knowing this guy, he'd probably say, well, I'm a middleweight and I'm a welterweight. Give me Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya on the same night. Like, that's probably the answer he's going to say. You know? I love him. That's what I would do. And the reason why I did it, and I thought about this, I was talking to my friend John, and my friend John is an extremely casual fan. He was asking me about Nate Diaz, and the thing about these guys are so tough. They'd always, and I'm like, you are the exact reason why I'd give you. And this is before the Lee Jingler fight. You're the reason I would give Nate Diaz to Chimaev because you don't know who Chimaev is. Anyways, anything else we should say about him before we move on?
Really, just that in the cage he fulfilled every expectation. I just wanted to, because I asked you on the preview, what would you want to see to convince you that he's back and that there aren't any lasting issues from his bout with COVID, from his 13-month layoff? And you said, I just want to see him smash. We got that. I'm still a little concerned because of the weigh-in thing, but if he takes another kind of contenders fight at 170, makes at least 171 without issue, I'll feel a lot better about that.
Yeah. So, Cyril Chiller, I apologize if I said his name wrong. He asked a question. I think it was him. I'm sorry. The chat's kind of getting going again. Does Chimaev beat Colby or Usman? I'm not going that far. But how crazy a story would this be? Just him asking the question makes me think that. I don't want to do, is he the best welterweight? Yeah, I don't want to do that. I already got my head way up his ass. Like, I don't want to go that far yet. But or as the guys in the Sherdog forum say, I'm swinging on his nuts. Okay, whatever. You know, the UFC loves the big fights, have a guy weighing in. Chimaev didn't take any damage. Imagine if he weighed in next week.
I mean, if he can do it.
Like, how crazy. Yeah, I mean,
you know he's going to be there no matter what with cage side seat.
Yeah. Well, the issue is, like, coming in from Abu Dhabi. It's not like it's in the United States. We're going to New York City. There's a lot to it, but just for shits and giggles, I'm throwing that out there. Before that, Volkan Oezdemir took on Magomed Ankalaev. Magomed Ankalaev won a unanimous decision. So I wasn't willing to do this, Ben, with Chimaev yet, but let's do it with Ankalaev. Is Ankalaev the best light heavyweight in the world?
On the right night, but I don't think it's an absolute clear thing.
Yeah.
Like when we were talking about matching up Teixeira and Blachowicz, I started thinking, how many guys in the light heavyweight division would be betting favorites over Magomed Ankalaev right now?
Who would be a betting favorite over him?
Teixeira would not.
No. Maybe Prochaska? Maybe
Prochaska?
Like that's close. It's like -110 +1, like, but yeah, I don't know. And the reason why, and I think your answer was perfect. Like, on the right night, he's the best light heavyweight in the world. Is he the best right now? I don't know. I think it's a good answer.
And here's the thing. I say on the right night, but he's the kind of guy that all he has is right nights. And I know this is weird to say about somebody whose only loss in the UFC was like on a Hail Mary sub, but
with 1 second left.
Yeah, generally speaking, he is a very conservative, deliberate, kind of airtight fighter. Like, he doesn't overextend himself. He'll take the finish if it comes to him, but he doesn't chase and he doesn't reach.
Like what he did tonight. Tonight,
tonight. Like, he outclassed Oezdemir badly, but he just was content to, like, win the whole thing, and that's fine. Because it's going to keep him from getting any other dumb losses on his way to a title shot. Yeah.
What impressed me most about tonight, and obviously this is all the stuff we had between Glover Teixeira, Petr Yan, Chimaev. God.
I'm sorry. I need to throw back one last thing about the last fight.
Okay.
Jay Petri, Sherdog associate editor, points out to me, Khamzat Chimaev is not vaccinated, which means he will not be allowed to enter the U.S. in about a week here.
There you go. That's why Jay is the very best. I'm making matchmaking with a guy who's not even eligible. I'm doing like for the hell of it moments. Like, how great would this be? That's why Jay is the brains behind this show. Very, very, very good point. And of course, I jumped Leon Edwards because that's what you do. Because obviously the obvious choice to be who'd be next would be Leon Edwards. But of course we got to skip Leon Edwards. We
were talking about Ankalaev.
Yeah, so Ankalaev. So what I was impressed by him is, I mean, obviously his size, like how he makes the weight class. He made Oezdemir look small. That is an accomplishment in itself right there. Obviously, his wrestling and his grappling is extremely well. His ground and pound is extremely well. We didn't really see that tonight. We saw a guy just picking apart a dangerous striker from range, and he has no tells. He's a very basic 1-2 striker, and I mean that is the biggest compliment ever. He has the basics down, and he's like mastered the basics.
Yep. You like that famous quote from Bruce Lee, I fear not the man who's practiced 10,000 kicks once, but the man who's practiced one kick 10,000 times. yeah, he has the bread and butter kickboxing down really, really clean.
Mm-hmm.
And it's why when he takes on these wilder guys, when he takes on your Krylovs and your Kudalabas who are dangerous but less disciplined, he generally just kind of makes them look amateurish.
Yeah, he hurt Ustamir bad with a straight left in the about midway through the first round, and that straight left must have hurt Ustamir a lot more than we realized, because it was a somewhat it was pretty competitive, and it was only, like I said, it was only two and a half minutes in or whatever, first round. But when he landed that straight left, Ustamir completely changed. He became gun shy. He was fighting back. He almost went into, even the broadcast said in the third round, he went to survivor mode, where he was more like, I've lost and I don't want to get stopped. That was what impressed me.
And it's impressive because that one punch was a course changer, but the story of most of the rest of the striking was how Ankalaev couldn't miss with his right. Like, his right was just glued to Uzdemir's face. Like, he had like a little check hook. He was hitting him with just bang, 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 like, splitting his eye open and everything. But yeah, that one left, it made a difference. It changed Uzdemir's plans.
Yeah, and I know it seems like everyone's on the Ankalaev bandwagon. Everyone's saying how special he is. I just want to point out that me and Ban was on it a long time ago. We were saying it. It was very unpopular. So now when everyone's saying this guy could be a champion material, we would get made fun of when we were throwing that out there. Yes. So we get a lot wrong, but this Ankalaev we've been right about. His next fight, I'm going to throw this out there, agree, disagree, and I'll throw this out of the chat. His next fight has to be at least a Fight Night main event or a pay-per-view co-main event.
If there's any justice in the world, it should be.
Okay. What do we do next with him?
Again, I wouldn't balk if they just had him fight Jan Blachowicz next.
Yeah.
Like, it's not as spectacular as Chimaev, because Chimaev is this Finnish machine with this like bubbly personality, whereas Ankalaev is much more of your traditional Dagestani, just kind of stoic, efficient, not always that exciting to watch. But he's doing the same thing where the logical next step, he's just kind of kicking him out of the way. He needs a top 5 guy next. If you don't want to do Blachowicz, then maybe Alexander Rakic is next. And the only reason I would pause with that is Rakic is a guy who's kind of making clean headway towards a title shot, and maybe you don't want to have one of these guys knock the other off. But merit-wise, that'd be perfect.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I already put Blachowicz versus Rakic, so I couldn't do that one. I went with Thiago Santos as kind of another moment where he just bashes, and I would favor Ankalaev for that matchup. I made a Fight Night main event around January, February. That's what I would do. I feel like those Fight Night main events is really what gets guys over, because you have a week, because you get the name in the headlines. UFC Santos versus Ankalaev. It's a week straight. It's the fight where, make some noise if you are ready for this fight. Like, he gets all the main event. That's why I feel like either that or a co-main event, because the co-main event you get the embedded, you get the countdown show. Like, you need something like that. He deserves that.
No, I completely agree. Like, the spotlight is on a Fight Night main event fighter, a lot of times kind of out of proportion to their actual stature in the sport. I mean, even speaking from Sherdog, like the week of, we do a bunch of kind of, like little franchise pieces about the headliners. So, you end up with like, hey, 5 things you might not know about Norma Dumont, like Norma Dumont,
Aspen Ladd.
Aspen Ladd's like 5 greatest wins, which arguably more deserving fighters don't get that shine just because they're not in the headliner. So I completely agree with you there.
So there you guys have it. That's the main card. Let's jump over to the prelims. And the prelims were loaded with talent. If I'm scoring just the prelims, I'm giving it an A. It was some really exciting. We had Amanda Ribas versus Verna Jandiroba, with Amanda Ribas picking up a unanimous decision. Let me rephrase Verna. I think it's Verna Jandiroba. I don't want to make anybody upset. I watched the video. Whose video was it? They were doing an interview, and that's how she pronounced her name. I apologize. I can't remember who it was, but I want to make sure I was pronouncing her name correct. Ribas is really, really good, and the reason why I can say she's really, really good is because beating Jandiroba is kind of the litmus test to being elite to me. If you beat her, you're elite. Do you agree?
Completely agree. And she looked good in doing it. She kind of did everything you want. Like, she leveraged her stylistic advantages. She weathered some trouble, like she was in all kinds of trouble at the end of the first round. And yeah, like.
Oh. Yeah, it was Drake Riggs. It was Drake Riggs interview. I want to give a shout out to actually a friend of mine. Like I've done a lot of shows with him. He's a great dude. He's the one he was kind of throwing out there. Make sure you get her name pronounced right. Drake, if you see this, I hope I did it right. If I didn't, I apologize. I tried. So Jandiroba, she showed improved striking. I'll give her that. She kind of showed a second event. She actually hurt Ribas, and that's the thing. That's the one concern I have about Ribas moving forward is the fact that she was dropped by a girl who's not known for her striking. She obviously was hurt in her last fight, but the positives is her speed, her output, the way she mixes and punches and kicks so well, her ability to defend takedowns from Jandiroba, because that's a great accomplishment. Jandiroba she's not the submission threat that a Mackenzie Dern is, but she's that top side grappler. She's the better wrestler. She's that type of grappler, which can sometimes be worse. She might not be as good in a straight jiu-jitsu match as Mackenzie Dern, but in MMA, it's way more effective because she can actually get the fight to the ground. Yes. I was so impressed by Amanda Ribas. I know she lost a little bit of shine with her loss. I didn't jump off the train. I'm glad I hung on. I think she's special. I think she's a top 5 girl in the division.
I think she's special as well. I think she's top 5 as well. And Marina Rodriguez is borderline top 5 herself.
Oh, yeah.
And she's just going to do that to people.
She's the big cracker.
Dangerous. Yeah. I mean, outside of the very top, like Rose and Wei Li, she might be the most dangerous pure striker in the division. You know?
Well, is she the biggest cracker in the division? I mean, in punching power sense?
I'm always shocked by how hard Rose Namajunas hits.
Yeah,
he doesn't look like
fair.
he should.
That's good. That's true. I think you got. Yeah, I think that's a good point because the physique difference is why you think one's the bigger cracker than and guys, you guys understand what I'm saying? Cracker, like how hard they hit. Yeah. I figured it. Most people.
Bunch of crackers.
Yeah. Who knows? Anybody know what she said in her post-fight interview? Because she said, "Hey, check out the post-fight interview. What I'm going to say." Anybody know what she said?
Dude,
we're watching the show.
Dude, I can't even tell whether she's speaking Portuguese or English sometimes. It's just this big. She's like a little anime cartoon character.
I love her. I think Amanda Ribas would be like that neighbor that she's super nice. You live next to her. If you cut your grass and you kick up a rock and it smashes a flower pot in her backyard, she doesn't really care. Oh, it's okay. She's super friendly. You say hi to her when you're walking the dog. She's the ultimate perfect neighbor, but also the girl you want to just be your neighbor. Yeah. Because that personality, you can the 5-minute interview is about as far as you can go. You're not doing an hour interview with her.
Yeah, she puts out a lot of energy.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So Andre said I pronounced it right, so that's nice from the fellow Brazilian.
Yes.
I should say fellow. I'm not fellow. I should say as Jandiroba's fellow countryman. Andre, if you're still there, do we have the awards yet, Andre? And if you do, let us know. What do you want to do with Ribas next?
Oh, Ribas. She needs to step up, and this is my night for saying, you know what? If somebody needs to step up, let's just give them a step up. I want either Tisha Torres or I want the loser of Rose versus Wei Li.
Wow. Tisha Torres was one that I was thinking of. She was on my list. Massachusetts own. I'm claiming everybody from Southern New England tonight. Oh, I know she hasn't lived there in a long time, but she lived from Fall River, Mass. I used to live in Fall River. Rose versus Wei Li, I didn't expect that. I did a similar route. I wanted the name, but not as tough. Mm-hmm. So I went with Claudia Gadelha.
If Claudia Gadelha is going to fight at strawweight next, I like that just fine.
Yeah, and that's true. That's a good point. Tisha Torres is good, and I'm okay with the loser of Rose versus Wei Li, especially if it's Wei Li. If Wei Li loses, now she's on a 2-fight losing streak.
And I understand that that's a good jump up for Ribas, but the thing is, the loser of Rose versus Wei Li is going to need to take a big step back. Mm-hmm. I think, again, especially
But
if it's Wei Li, probably.
But is Amanda Ribas a big? She might not be a big step back, and that'd be a fun stylish matchup. All right, so let's do this. Let's pause from going on. Andre has the awards, so we got the fight of the night, performance of the night. Let's do this. Anybody wants? A lot of guys like to guess. We do strictly off the honor system. So if you already know what the awards are, don't tell us. Andre is our official awards announcer.
I know them, so I'll abstain, but I will tell you that there is a fight of the night and 2 performances of the night.
Okay. So last time I was guessing what they were going to be. This is me saying what I would give. So let me think real quick. So fight of the night got to be the co-main event. So guys, throw out the answers in the chat if you want to participate in the fun, if you guys like to guess. Some of our usual guys who guess, I haven't seen them in here tonight. I know Alan's in here, so Alan will probably guess. Kyle's in here, so he'll probably guess. I'll go co-main event as the fight of the night, Petr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen. That to me seems like a no-brainer. As far as performances, it's got to be Glover Teixeira, simply because when you win the title and you win by stoppage, you got to get something. So now it comes down to who else gets the performance. I have Chimaev and Islam Makhachev as options. How do you pick between them? I'm gonna go with Islam simply because his stoppage, I think, might have been a little bit quicker, and it was against a ranked guy, a higher ranked guy. Those are my guesses. I don't know if anybody else has any. We'll give it a little time. I know obviously there's a little bit of delay by the time I say this and before the chat. So anybody has their guesses, throw it on the chat. Man, that's not even like giving it to a guy like Lerone Murphy, who had a nice. Oh, and then Michael Olszewski had a really good performance. Yeah, I'm gonna give it to Islam. I'm gonna give it to the co-main event, and I'm gonna give it to Glover. Those are my picks. So we're not waiting anymore. Sorry guys, you took too long. Andre, tell us. Sorry, Alan's got his in the time. Alan, fight night co-main event performances: Lerone Murphy, Islam, and Khamzat. Because you can't leave Lerone out with that knee KO. So Alan cheats, gives too many. But if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. So I'll give you that. Doesn't give Glover Teixeira performance night after he won it. But all right, Andre, if you want to announce them, or Ben, you can announce them. What are the?
I'll throw them out there. It was Yan versus Sandhagen was the fight of the night.
No brainer.
And performances of the night: Glover Teixeira and Khamzat Chimaev.
Oh my lord!
Dude,
Islam
that
doesn't
should
get.
Have been the first. That should have been the first name out of your mouth.
I know.
If he got any kind of finish tonight, you knew he was getting an award.
I know. Islam gets nothing. Like, come on, are you kidding me? And then Lerone Murphy's knee. It was one of those nights. Sometimes it sucks, but you just got to give it up. It's one of those nights. Like, It was just an incredible night. All right. Speaking of Islam Makhachev, let's go with his teammate Zabara Tukhugov. He took on Ricardo Ramos. He won a unanimous decision. This had like a fight of the night feel to it before the co-main event. It was a really fun stand-up battle. I'll say this. I had the right fighter, but it was the wrong fight. And what I mean by that, like I picked the guy that was going to win. And I believe you took Tukhugov too, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we both picked the right. I didn't expect it to be a stand-up battle. I expected it to be a war on the ground.
Me too. I thought Tukhugov would have the advantage on the feet, but I didn't expect the fight to spend as much time there as it did. Yeah. So
Andre just said 254 total strikes for Hausnoff to 2. I don't know where he got that, but I heard 1, but there must have been a second significant strike. Did Lee land a significant strike tonight?
I don't know whether Lee did, and I just was going by what the UFC booth said tonight.
Yeah, okay.
That he had 1, but
Andre's really good at pulling these. He's got Andre and Jay Petri. They'd be best friends. They're really good with these stats. Andre's one of these guys who pulls off the stats really well too.
The crazy thing is, one of Khamzat's fights went to the second round.
I know.
It's not like they were all 13-second finishes. I mean, he's getting up on like 10 minutes of cage time, and he's hit it twice.
Think about this stat right now. 254, and I believe that's significant strikes to 2, or maybe that might be total strikes. That might be the difference.
Yeah.
He must be counting, because I think his significant strikes only been 1.
Okay, there you go.
Though it always goes on, what's the difference between significant and regardless? Total strikes, significant strikes, regardless. It's so funny. I go, oh, 2 landed on him? Like, almost like, oh, yeah. So, yeah, Andre, he clarified that is total strikes. So 2 total strikes in 4 fights. So every other fight, the guy gets 1 punch landed on him. And somehow I'm like, oh, he's been hit twice. Like, he can't be that good. He's been hit twice. Like, it was such a big difference between 1 and 2. Anyway, so we'll go back to this fight. Tukugov versus Ramos, as we're all over the place tonight. We're living in a crazy world. Glover Teixeira is the light heavyweight champion. That's the world we're living in now. Tukugov put a big name on his record, a good, very quality win against Ramos. He showed well-rounded skills, but somehow I feel less about him. And why I feel less about him is I don't think his wrestling is as dominant as I thought it was.
Either that or just, Ramos was better than I gave him credit for. But yeah, I agree. I thought Tukugov would be able to get this fight to the ground when, he wanted and probably have pretty good control there. I mean, it goes to show just because the guy's got the foreguard all around and, got a lot of consonants in his name, they're not all Khabib. There's a whole spectrum of skills, even for guys that come from the same sambo and boxing background. There's a broad range.
So the reason I feel better about his striking, I feel worse about his wrestling, and because of that, overall, I feel worse about him as a fighter. Because I expected that wrestling to always be that safe spot where I can always go to my wrestling, get the takedown, win rounds. I don't know if that's true.
And it's I mean, and I'm saying this about a guy that I still think he has, top 10 upside, but it is more concerning as he moves up the ranks because some divisions are packed with dominant wrestlers at the top, like welterweight is packed with dominant wrestlers. When you get up into the featherweight higher rankings, you're getting a wide range of extremely dangerous, different flavored strikers, and if you don't have the wrestling as kind of a safety valve, you're going to be on the gunnery range against some of these guys. Yeah.
As far as this fight, the difference between that I stood out to you, you told me what stood out to you, was just simply the forward pressure. He didn't really respect the striking of Ramos. Now, he got caught a couple times and he had to take some back step, but mostly, though, Ramos was walking back, trying to fight off his back foot, really struggled with that. In that was enough for him to win. Kyle throws out Arnold Allen is like the ceiling for Tukugov. Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't. I know you're not doing matchmaking. I wouldn't do that matchmaking yes, because I think Arnold Allen deserves. He's kind of earned something higher than that, but I think that's a good comparison. Arnold Allen, maybe. Yeah. I don't know if Arnold Allen is the ceiling. I think I like Arnold Allen more than him right now.
But I think of Arnold Allen also as a guy that, even if he's not there yet, will probably be a top 10 guy within the next year or so. He's banging on the door. It's not a bad ceiling to have.
Yeah, he's banging on the door. Speaking of guys with a huge ceiling, we just had Roman Kovalev take on Albert Duraev. Duraev won a unanimous decision. Duraev showed a little bit more striking than I expected, but his chin is starting to become an issue. He was dropped. I think he was dropped once or twice in this fight. Or he was dropped once and rocked once.
I mean, all of his previous defeats had been by KO or TKO, and in a couple of them, he was flashed by a single strike and then finished on the ground. It's always going to be a question mark.
Yeah.
I don't know why he would. If I were Albert Duraev, I would not spend a second longer in the feet than I had.
Yes.
Because he's so dominant when it hits the ground.
Yeah.
And he's always in danger when it's on the feet.
Yeah. The thing about his hands is he had a lot of offensive tools. He was landing a lot on the feet. So I want to point that out. I'm just worried a little bit about his chin moving forward. But you made the exact point I wanted to say was his ground game is insane. We saw that in the second round when he got the takedown, it was right to mount, right to some of the best ground and pound you'll see.
Yep.
And that is a scary, scary thing for fighters moving forward. How high is his potential? We were just talking about against Tukugov saying Arnold Allen is the ceiling. What's the ceiling for this guy?
10 through 15. He's already like 32 years old.
Yep.
He already has an iffy chin. If he gets the right guys, he could win his way into the top 10. Like on the ground, I think he's going to be as dangerous as anybody in the division right now. He's so strong. He's so positionally sound. He has that kind of Glover Teixeira thing where he doesn't look nimble on the feet, but when it's on the ground, it's just all of a sudden like taking that beached like shark and throwing it back into the water. You're like, oh, you do move fast.
Yeah.
But against the wrong guy, if he just gets stuck on the feet, he's going to get pieced up and he's going to get knocked out by like borderline dudes.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like a Brad Tavares or something. If he got stuck on the feet with Brad Tavares, the reason why I rank him a little higher than you, which is funny considering I was just having the same questions, and in fairness, like Tukov's the better striker. I just want to put these two together because the comparison. The only difference, talking about featherweight versus middleweight. So the reason why I see a higher ceiling for him is the division. It's a much easier division.
Yeah.
And in fairness, it's a wide open division. With the champion being so dominant and now he's kind of on his second rounds of fighting guys. Yeah, he's 32, but there is a fast track. A couple good wins and he's right there.
Yeah, it'll depend a lot on matchmaking, really, and just on. It's going to depend on the luck of the draw. He's a guy that is vulnerable when it's on the feet, so if just nobody hits that button, he could win 3 or 4 in a row, and all of a sudden, he's looking like a contender.
Yeah. I want to talk about one thing before we move on in this fight. I want to talk about the refereeing in this fight. Jason Herzog was referee. You'll know why I want to talk about refereeing in a second. One of the best refereeing you'll see when a couple of grabbed the cage, he stopped it right then, put him in the position. Then later on when I think between the second and third round, Kolfo was like just got battered on the ground, had a cut, errorless. He called the doctor in between rounds, made him check on the guy before he came back. Like everything a referee should do, Jason Herzog did. Which is a perfect transition to our next fight. Alessio Selesky dos Santos versus Benoit Saint Denis. I apologize if I said the French wrong. Apologize to new celebrity Mrs. Carlotti, my old French teacher. Still love you. So I had a good night. I went 11-3. I think you had a really good night too.
12-2.
You went 12-2. Damn, Ben. Nice job.
Dude,
man.
I picked Oleg Shaychuk.
Nice. That was a good call. So I had 3 wrong. I had the main event wrong. I have the next 2 fights we're going to cover wrong. Everything else I got right. You had...
I got the co-main wrong. Like, I picked the Sandhagen upset and...
In the main event.
And the main event, yeah.
So, wow. So you went all the way to the title fights before you lost one. You almost had a perfect game there.
Almost.
So this was by far my worst call. I picked St. Denis in an upset. Okay. But worse than me was this referee. This referee was horrendous. It was one of the worst refereeing I've ever seen in my life. I'm going to stop for a second. Ben, you tell me how bad it was.
Okay. I'll give you a little behind the camera or behind the curtain here, guys. The ref in this fight, Vyacheslav Kiselev, he is a former fighter. You might still consider himself a fighter, but he's had fights. He is a ref for an organization in Russia called Strelka Street Fight. And Strelka Street Fight is just it's what it sounds like. They have a mobile ring that they'll just stick in like a sand volleyball pit or just on a literal street corner and have like dudes can just come out of the crowd. Dudes with beef will fight each other in like cut off jeans and sneakers. It's utter dog shit.
Can I stop you for 1 second though?
Of course.
That should be the exact way Chimaev and Nate Diaz fight. Carry on.
And they're super fraudulent too. They'll always be trying to send fights to Sherdog Fight Finder to get, bogus wins onto people's records. And we're like, this isn't professional MMA.
Hold on a second. Are you trying to tell me that organizations lie to Sherdog? Are you trying to tell me that fighters lie to Sherdog? Are you trying to tell me managers lie to Sherdog?
Especially Russian ones. But it's literally
so
like
Andre Petrowski's. We gotta check his record again. Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
Okay. All right, Karen.
No, like it's the same as if somebody like sent us a bunch of videos from like Break.com or World Star and we're like, hey, put this on my professional fight record. So it should not be surprising that a ref from that organization doesn't know how to referee real MMA. But this is seriously the worst refereeing I've ever seen I mean, ever, like, since, like, 1996. Like, the worst refereeing I've ever seen in, like, high-level mixed martial arts. This fight should have been stopped.
Yeah.
This fight should have been stopped twice. A fighter literally told the ref, I can't see.
Yeah, that's
and
my
got
issue.
Thrown back out there.
So the whole second round where Denis is doing the stanky leg like 8 times should have been stopped. You got Paul Felder screaming. He quickly sidestepped because he knew it didn't work good for Dan Hooker. But, people are screaming. Twitter's going crazy. Everyone's saying stop the fight. Everyone is in agreement. Everybody in the world wanted the fight stopped except for this Russian former street fighter in cut-off jeans in this weird MMA organization. Okay. But we've seen that before. We've seen one-sided fights where everyone's screaming to stop. We've seen it. I have an issue with what Andre just pointed out. He didn't call in a doctor. Then a fighter gets poked in the eye. He says, I can't see. He doesn't call in a doctor. And then it still, to me, seems like, and I'm actually okay. I'm still somewhat okay. Like, I still think it's extremely bad. I still think it stopped. But it's not the worst I've ever seen because, okay, fighters have said they can't see before, but then you give them a couple seconds, now they can see. Like, I get that. You poke me in the eye, I'm like, oh, man, that hurts. I don't want to open my eye. It stings. And then eventually I can see again. Okay. My issue is when he's motioning like I still can't see, and he's like, all right, fight. And he's like, motions again like I can't see. And he's like, fight.
No, it's something straight out of Strelka Street Fights. He ain't done. Like, what the fuck?
Like,
what the actual fuck was going on? And then, like, the weirdest point deduction ever.
Yeah, and then he... yeah, well, I understand the thinking. Okay, why am I defending this guy? Like, I'm trying to say, like, it's all the pieces by itself isn't the worst refereeing ever. It's all the pieces together who makes it the worst.
Yeah.
Like, we've seen fighters beat as bad as Denis and the fight not get stopped.
Yes.
Now, it's probably not good for me to go, like, it's that kind of the criminal who says, well, I'm not as bad as that guy. Like, that's not the, good way to argue something. Sorry. But yeah, it's just freaking terrible. I don't really understand how it works. Like, I don't know if it's the commission or if it's the UFC itself, how they replace a referee. I credit that they realized they screwed up, replaced him. That was good. I want to suggest something and tell me why I'm wrong, and I'll tell you why I'm right. I think the UFC should have their own referees. I don't think we should use commission referees. I think their UFC should travel, have their own referees.
I have a problem with that because
I'm gonna have a counterpoint in a second, but good. I'm setting you up.
Kyle made a good point.
I'm warning you. I'm giving you my Petr Yan. I'm giving you the round, but I'm gonna get you late.
Kyle points out that tyranny kind of cut through the red tape here. The fact that this is an unregulated area, so the UFC could just yank the ref and there was no commission involved.
Good point.
Worked out.
Good point.
But you can't. I don't think you can judge this on the results. It worked fine tonight, but if the UFC had that power on an ongoing basis, just that way lies one championship, and just like transparent promoter manipulation of results.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I agree. I knew that was what you were going to say. This is my counterpoint. The NBA hires their own referees. The MLB hires their own umpires. NFL, soccer, I'm assuming soccer does. I don't know. All the other sports hired their own.
Yes. And
we don't have that kind of corruption. I know someone's going to point out, hey, we had a referee who was betting on NBA and he went to jail. And I understand. There are exceptions, though. But generally speaking, and I'm assuming, and I know some people will be like, dude, my freaking Green Bay Packers got screwed against the Bears 2 years ago because, like, okay, all right. Generally speaking, they're calling it fairly. My thing is the corruption. Well, if that happens, then people are just going to stop watching. And if guys call it, you say, hey, the UFC wants this guy to win, and the referee starts favoring that guy, people start seeing, people stop watching. Like, eventually you just got to say, look, well, you could be honest or not. But at least we would there would still be that corruption part possible. But what's the word I'm looking for? The competence, I guess, would be more accountable because you'd be like, hey, Dana, this referee has screwed up 8 big fights in the last year. Why he still works for you? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, the main difference is that those other sports don't have to be regulated and sanctioned by state athletic commissions, where MMA does. So it's more like boxing in that regard. And boxing has had this problem for 100 years. You know, some judges and referees are incompetent, others are possibly corrupt, and I mean, everyone pronounces it the death of boxing every few years. Just every time there's a really shitty decision in a big fight, you know, like a Canelo versus Kovalev type thing.
Until the rematch. Until the rematch comes, then we watch.
Until the rematch, and you know what?
Then we watch.
100 years into the death of boxing, the biggest boxing pay-per-views are still bigger than the biggest MMA pay-per-views. Like, it's not a perfect system, but bringing it in-house, I think, just opens the door to a different type of corruption.
See, my argument is, so, and we're going to finish, we don't want to spend too much time, because we still got a lot to cover, is 2 things. One is, why does it have to be regulated by the state? Like, why can't we be an independent sport, like all the other sports? Second of all, you just said that all the problems that it's a problem in boxing. So why are we following the boxing model? Like you said, for 100 years, there's been a problem in boxing. So why are we following it?
Well, it's a problem in boxing, but I'm saying that it hasn't killed boxing. Like
no, I know. Okay, fair enough. I just think like if we know it's a problem in boxing, I think my way fixes it because I think there'll be more accountability in my way. And then plus, Bloody Elbow would write a negative article every single day about it if it was my way. Did I just say that on our show? Anyways. Okay, let's talk about the X's of this fight. Dos Santos is just way better fighter at this point in their careers.
And way better at the places where Saint Denis is supposed to be strong. Like Saint Denis presents as a striker and Dos Santos just chewed him up. Yeah.
And the wrestling worked early for Saint Denis, but he wasn't. I thought he would be able to keep Dos Santos down. That's why I picked Saint Denis. He couldn't. That was a big deal. He couldn't. He could get the takedowns. He just couldn't keep him there. And like shout out to Dos Santos. In the second round, you actually seen him looking over like he didn't want to hit him anymore. Like, and this is a guy who's known for his violence. That's the funny thing. He's still looking over like, dude.
I mean, X's and O's wise, one thing I'll observe is he did a beautiful job in the first round. Like anytime Saint Denis would kick, instead of like checking or countering with a punch, he just kicked Saint Denis' other leg really hard.
Oh, yeah.
He did that about 3 times, and then Saint Denis stopped throwing those high kicks. I think it probably compromised his wrestling attempts, and that's what really started the ball rolling downhill. Like about 3 brutal kicks to the plant leg while Saint Denis was kicking, and like that kind of snuffed a lot of his offense.
Yeah, and DC and Felder, I think, made a good point of Saint Denis doing a lot of observing his shots where he's throwing and not moving his head, kind of keeping it on the center line, and that's why he was getting caught a lot in the counters. Before that, Michael Sajak versus Shamal Gamzatov, with Michael Sajak winning by first round TKO. Absolutely incredible performance. Absolutely incredible performance. I'm going to do it, Ben. I said I wasn't going to believe in him anymore, but I'm going to believe in him.
Dude, so, I'm with you. Like, on the preview, like we both expressed, we have our doubts about Oleg Čeček. He looks undersized and underpowered for the division. He's traditionally relied too much on his ability to take punishment. I mean, I shouldn't say this on the night that Glover Teixeira won the title, but for most humans, that's not a viable path to like a good career at 205. Just everyone has too much power. But you said you love his high output. You love that he's willing to go to the body. I said, even if he's small, that at least allows him to leverage that to work a high rate and trust that he has cardio. He did both those things, and he destroyed Gamzatov.
Yeah. So he's like that cheating girlfriend that I'm bringing back. Like that's like, or the girlfriend who boyfriend cheats on him all the time. Like he's gonna cheat on you again. But like right now, he's whispering sweet nothings in my ear, and he's got me back.
Oh yeah,
he's saying
he sent the big flowers to you at work.
Yeah,
so like,
I'm sorry,
cool
baby.
In front of all your friends. Yep.
I'm sorry, baby. He's doing that to me right now. He's got me. He's got me.
Oh man.
Yeah. So this to me, he's got all the tools on the feet. I actually thought Zamazov was landing some clean, nice shots. To me, the difference in this fight was the forward pressure, and it was just a matter of like, yeah, the big uppercut put him down, but he was breaking him already. He was before that, and I think about like when I used to like I used to do some training, and I was a big pressure person. I believe pressure is one of the biggest underrated tools in the game. We see it all the time. Like I would train guys, and I would make them like run laps, like, hey, run 5 laps forward. Okay, now do it backwards. And they don't know what I was doing. Then I said, oh, then we're tired now, aren't you? Then running backwards and forwards. Like, yeah. Well, what happens when we're pressuring? He was backing up the whole time. You're running backwards compared to running forwards. And that it got to him. And, oh, God, this guy's making me believe in him again, Ben. All Sajak's making me believe. I almost said he's going to be a problem for the division. I almost said that. He's got me believing, Ben. Ben, be my friend. Be the friend who says, no, he's cheating on you. Move on. He's a scumbag. Don't do it.
I picked him to win. Like, I've already taken him back. Like, we have the shared Facebook page now. You know?
Yeah, the trust. He gave
Ben Mihal Duffy, you know?
Yeah. He gave you the password to his phone.
Yeah.
Yeah, gotcha. All right. The guy that we gave up on, Makhachev Americani, he was starting to make me believe for a second, and then Lerone Murphy knocked him out with a knee, perfectly timed knee in the second round. Really, Americani did not. Murphy did not get a bonus, which is any other night. It's crazy that he did not get a bonus, but it is. To me, two sides to this, and it's the best of, I think, the positive and the negative. The positive, from the X and O's looking sense, this is why feints are so effective, especially against wrestlers. He feinted out the shot. We hear all the time, best way to counter a wrestler is feint him, force the shot out of him, and then counter. And he did it with the timing of the knee. Incredible timing. And then on the flip side, when you're a wrestler like Americani, do not shoot without setting it up. Set it up with some hands. He didn't. He shot, as we always say, naked leg kick. He did a naked entry, and Murphy put him out. Incredible timing. Really good. What do you got to say about this? And then we'll talk about Murphy a little bit more.
Even though Americani lost, at least he did the things that were going to win him the fight in the first round. Like, didn't mess around on the feet with Murphy, which is danger zone for him. Like, tried to wrestle, succeeded in wrestling early on, made the tactical error in the second round of shooting without any sort of setup, but the strategy was in place. Like, it was just the execution that he made the one mistake, and it cost him probably about a half hour of his life that he doesn't remember. But at least made the right choices in terms of overall strategy. It does make me feel better about Americani going forward, even if both you and I are kind of over him as a potential contender.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. What do you think about Murphy moving forward? Now, he's undefeated. He's calling for a top 15 guy next. Do you see him as that range, the guy?
I'm not a full believer yet. Now, I'm a believer in that he absolutely belongs here, and there's no smoke and mirrors to what he has, but what he has is, 2-0-1 in the UFC.
Sure, but the two good wins, though. They're two good wins.
They're two good wins, and even the draw, it was Tybura to Glugov.
Yeah.
Fat Tybura. So, I think he kind of deserves a top 15 guy next. But if Americani could get him down that badly, I want to see kind of a borderline top 15 guy, because Murphy's exciting to watch.
Okay.
But if he can be neutralized on the ground, we need to find it out sooner than later.
Yeah, I agree. That's still, he did struggle to get back up, so that's concerning. But yeah, I think he deserves something higher up. Before that, Andre Petrovski versus Yao Zhang Hu. Petrovski got a third-round submission. Talk to me about this fight, Ben.
It was a perfect Andre Petrovski fight. Did enough striking to get into range to do what he wanted to do, which is throw a man down on the ground and make guacamole out of him. I'm surprised that Hu made it as long as he did, honestly. Fair play to him, because we could have gotten just a mauling into arm triangle choke really in any of these 3 rounds, and it wouldn't have surprised me.
Yeah. So Petrovski, he feels like a guy to me that he's still learning on the job. I shouldn't say that. Everyone should be learning on the job, but really,
it was good to get in the reps here.
Yes. I still feel like he should be lower at this could have been a contender series fight. That said, I mean, it is what it is. He's in the UFC. He's that, like, apprenticeship program. Like, he's that guy. Like, he's walking around the construction site, and really the only thing he can do is dig a hole. But, you know, you get him next to the right guy, and the guy's teaching him, you know, hey, you got to put this bolt here, and you got to cut it this way. He needs to find a way to conserve his energy. But in fairness to him, he was able to dig deep when he looked really tired and then finish with, shout out, by the way, I called the exact submission. Thank you very much.
Oh, yeah.
Pat myself on that back. I get the main event wrong. So if you get the main event wrong, nothing else matters. But I'm going to give a little bit of myself credit as I pick the actual sub. What I'll say this, I had a conversation with someone on Twitter. I apologize. I don't remember who it was. We had a really good discussion. And I think we kind of both came to the agreement that maybe the narrative of Petrovski's gas tank is overblown. And he's just a guy that has bad body language. Because he was throwing hard shots, really wrestle-heavy game, deep in the third round, all wrestling, and then he finishes with 15 seconds left to give or take, and gets the submission. It might be one of those guys, he has the cardio, just has the wrong body language. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Derek Lewis is one of those guys. We've talked about it all the time. Derek Lewis has that.
Yeah, Derek Lewis is breathing with his mouth open 3 minutes into the fight, but he's still throwing a decent number of strikes in round 4 and can knock you out.
Oh, and how can I forget? Perfect example is last week's main event, Paulo Costa. Paulo Costa looked really tired and still was throwing bombs in the 5th round.
Mm-hmm. No, that's.
I want to point out Petrovski. I think he's with a really good team. Daniel Gracie, MMA. I think it's Renzo Gracie, Philadelphia, but Daniel Gracie's the leader. That's like a really quietly getting good gym. Developing.
Is that the Sean Brady gym?
Sean Brady, Jeremiah Wells is from that team. Paul Felder trains there. Like, you know, when he's, you know, not with Rufus before he was retired. And now Petrovski, I know there's one or two other guys I can't think of that's in that. Just a really, like, kind of has a Fortis MMA feel to it, where it's a small gym that's just slowly growing with better, like, homegrown talent. And another thing I want to point out, shout out to DC, who took a little dig at Greco-Roman wrestling when he pointed out freestyle wrestling better than Greco-Roman. I agree with that, Daniel. I love the old rivalry. And before that, the opening fight, I apologize if I say these name wrongs. Tagir Ulanbekov defeated Alan Nascimento.
Yep.
For a mostly ground grappling fight, I thought this was a fantastic fight.
I agree. If you told me that this much time was going to be spent on the ground, I would have figured Ulanbekov was just steamrolling him. But Nascimento won the second round.
Yeah.
Very effective. He got kind of little lanky, long-limbed guy grappling, and they can just sometimes really kind of tie up and stymie and confuse a squatter guy who's stronger. Like, good fight.
Yeah, the first round was really amazing. We had some really good grappling between back and forth, sub attempts. You mentioned that Nascimento won the second round. Like, credit to the judges who gave it that way, because not many judges are going to give a guy on bottom for pretty much the entire round and just tossing him up sub attempts and like little pity-patter striking. And one of the judges gave him the fight. And I don't remember the last time a fighter won a fight by doing just submission attempts from the bottom and some striking. So it would have been a little bit far if he won, so we could have won a little more discussion that way. The one negative is that I think he should use a little more urgency to use some of those substitutes to get sweeps, try to get himself on top, realizing he was losing the fight. But that's the only thing. I thought it was actually a good showing from I feel like it was actually a better showing from Nascimento in a loss than it was in Ulanbekov in a win.
I agree. Like, I did not expect much out of Nascimento. He had taken 3 years off, came back and beaten, frankly, just a nobody in a regional show in Brazil. Nothing that would have prepared him to take on Ulanbekov. And he looked great.
So there you have it, guys. We've finally covered all 14 fights of this main card. Let's go on to the fun stuff, the Bulls, the Bears, the Cutlass, and the overall grade. Let's do the Cutlass first. Ben, I have 2 names. How many do you have?
I have 1.
Okay, so let me explain to the listeners, in case there's anybody in here who there's a discussion about Ben hating Gilbert. I'm assuming that's Gilbert Burns. Is that what we're talking about?
Yep.
Oh, okay, because you matched him against Chimaev. Yeah, I must hate Nate Diaz then. So how the Cutlass works, if me and Ben both have a fighter on both of our lists, that means we put them on the Schillen and Duffy Cutlass, meaning the UFC. We give the UFC permission to let this fighter go and open up doors for other fighters. So I had 2. You had 1. So let's figure out who the one person and see if I have him on your list.
Yes, let's figure out who the one is.
Okay.
Like who we want to let go.
So who is it, Ben?
It is.
Who is it, Ben?
Who it is?
What is the person?
Who?
Who's the person's name?
Person?
Who's the person's name?
Yeah, who is the person?
What is
exactly? Who is the person?
Yeah, what is? I'm asking you.
Oh my God! I'm gonna punch myself in the face if we do this any longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. That is
out of my UFC.
Sorry. Of course, I couldn't resist. Ben, I couldn't resist.
Oh no, that was perfect. Thank you.
I couldn't resist. And
it's like dad joke, meet like
hey,
granddad joke.
Hey.
Bringing back the Abbott and Costello.
Hey, when we have 38-year-old versus 42-year-old, we can do that joke. So, Yazan, who we're on both of our lists, you're talking about a guy he's lost. He's 3 in a row. He's 0-3 in the UFC. Hasn't won a fight in 5 years. Yazan, who is gone. So the guy who's getting saved on my list, Ben is being nice, not getting cut. The guy on my list is Magomed Ankalaev. He's lost 3 in a row. I feel like Magomed Ankalaev would be better off in Bellator right now. Bellator is doing this push in Europe. They're kind of around. I just feel like he fits Bellator more than the UFC. I would get rid of him.
Maybe he'd go back to SBG Ireland if they send him to Bellator. Since
there you
go.
So that's the Cutlass. All right. Now let's get to the Bulls and the Bears. The Bulls and the Bears is a stock market reference. It is if you're on the Bulls, your stock is going up. If it's a Bear, stock going down. We do it hockey style, 3, 2, 1. Ben, is it okay if I go first?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll do the Bears. We'll do negative. So this is the list you do not want to be on. My number 3, Corey Sandhagen. Now, I know Corey Sandhagen. I actually thought he had good performances in both fights. A lot of people thought he beat TJ Dillashaw. I didn't, but a lot of people do. He's still 2 losses in a row to the top guys. Based on that, he's kind of a long ways away from a title shot now. So that's why, to me, his stock fell a little bit. Number 2, Volkan Oezdemir. Volkan Oezdemir has now also lost 2 fights in a row. 4 out of his last 6. Really gun-shy in this fight. Didn't really give himself a lot of opportunity to win. Volkan Oezdemir is really, really far away from a title shot. And my number 1 is referee Yaroslav Kiselov. That guy's terrible. He should never be around MMA unless it's those cut-off jeans fights. Then he can referees those. But anything else, he should not be. Shout out to Kyle, who threw out Magomed Ankalaev, PFL semifinalist in 2022. He's kind of in that mid-range of fighter where you're not good enough to fight in the UFC, but you'll probably win $1 million in PFL. Antonio Carlos Jr. range. So shout out to Makwan. Ben, who are your Bears?
Oh, Bears. I'll go with Shamil Gamzatov. I picked Oleg Sherdog to beat him, and they ended up pretty much a pick 'em by the time they got into the cage. But he's a guy that has, again, he was previously undefeated. He had fairly high expectations. We were talking about how he was kind of quietly sneaking his way up.
Yep.
And got thrashed. Obviously, anytime you lose your first fight, your stock is by definition down.
Absolutely.
I agreed with all 3 of yours. So rather than give 3 of my own, I'll just throw in Martin Tybura. Martin Tybura was on a 5-fight win streak, and regardless of how much smoke and mirrors you thought that involved, winning 5 fights in a row in a division where everybody has knockout power, except you, it takes some doing. And not only did he lose to Volkov, he lost to Volkov in a way that showed basically not many signs of life. I didn't see anything in that fight that made me think that if they fought 5 times, it would look much different any of the other 4. What that tells me is that he's hit his ceiling. And so his ceiling looks like around number 7 or whatever Volkov is right now. So, sad story, because he had a little bit of a career renaissance.
All right. Kyle says Antonio Carlos Jr. is Glover on a diet. Come on, man. You're talking about the best 205 fighter in the world. Come on. Still kind of strange to say. All right, let's get to the Bulls. These guys who had a good night. Ben, I'll let you start it off.
Okay. Let's go to the flip side of that coin. Michal Oleksiejczuk. Best performance of his career. best performance of his UFC run. The first fight I've seen him in that makes me think he could be more than someone who just wins one, loses one, wins two, loses one. But at age 26, if he's growing into any kind of like 30-year-old body, growing even a little more in his power, and can keep the things he already does well, all of a sudden we're looking at a guy who maybe could like sneak into the top 10 in a year or two.
Plus, he got thrown out of the house, and somehow he's talked himself back into sleeping on the couch.
Talked us back into the house.
He's at least on the couch. He's still on the couch though.
Yeah.
But he's in the house.
So if you see me on Facebook and you see Ben Mihal Oleksiak Duffy, the birthday there, that's mine. So when it shows up birthday, say happy birthday to me, not him. I know that's confusing with those shared Facebook accounts. Number 2. Amanda Ribas. Obviously, like I said about Kopylov, your stock is down if you lose your first fight, you lose your first UFC fight. When you bounce back from it with maybe your best UFC win, your stock is up. Ribas is right back on track as someone, she lost to a really good fighter in Marina Rodriguez, but still looks like someone who is cruising for the top 5 right now.
All right. Who's your number 1?
Could it be anyone other than Glover Teixeira?
No. Nope.
I mean, we talked about this for 15 minutes off the top before we even got into a single strike or takedown attempt or any X's and O's. Just talked about what a great story this is. Like Big Nog crying and hugging him is all of us right now.
Yep. Petr Yan versus. So I'm going to give you my number 1 first. My number 1 is Glover Teixeira. It's the kind of my rule is when you win a UFC title for the first time, you automatically kind of get my number 1 spot. Because it's the Super Bowl winning moment. That's the crown of your career. This is the cherry on top of a already credible career. So you have all that. When you had a night where Petr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen put on a classic slugfest, you have Islam Makhachev looking like the best fighter in the lightweight division. You have Chimaev having his breakthrough moment. You had flying knee knockout. Like, you had all kinds of stuff. This was still Glover Teixeira's night. No matter what happened, this is Glover Teixeira's night. So I'll start from the top and go to the bottom instead. My number 2, Russian MMA. Russian MMA went 7-1 on the night. Obviously,
it went 7-1, and the one loss was against another Russian. Like, that 7-1 was as best they could do.
Was it?
Beat Kopylov.
Oh, okay. There was no other ones. I think.
No, Khamzat lost as well. So they actually went 7-2, but one of them was Russian against Russian.
Yes, so that's what I did. I didn't count. I didn't count that one. I didn't count those. So I didn't count the loss on that. So 7-1. I think Eagles MMA won all their fights, I believe. Obviously, Islam Makhachev looks like I said, best lightweight in the world. He looks like Chimaev had his huge moment, breakthrough moment. Just Russian MMA is taking over. It is what it is. Start learning how to end everything with offs and work on your Russian because it's taken over. And I guess my number 3 is Lerone Murphy. He's undefeated. He got KO wins over Ramos and Americani recently. He beat, I think it was Douglas Silva de Andrade in there. Like, those are just 3 really good wins to start your UFC career with the draw with Chigov. So that's my balls. So, Ben, we covered 14 fights. What is your overall grade for the card?
I'll just give it a flat A. There were some fights that didn't quite deliver, but there were so many eye-popping individual performances, at least one really great fight, and obviously what will be one of the stories of the year, Glover Teixeira winning the UFC light heavyweight title at age 42. I can't give it less than an A, even if I can't give it an A+.
To me, the prelims delivered. There was so many incredible moments. You summed it up with Teixeira. I'm giving it a no-brainer A. I think it's probably the event of the year. Add in the fact, and then you have like little things you add, like the fact that this was a UFC level pay-per-view, and we got it for on ESPN, ESPN Plus or whatever. Nice little incentive. I know not good for you, Ben, but good for me for the time difference. Little things like that. Altogether, to me, this is probably my nominee for event of the year. I'm sure there's something else that I'm not thinking of. Who's the listener of the night?
Man, Kyle Lougheed throwing volume tonight. I liked the kind of like rookie of the year performances out of Sword Song and Serial Chiller. Like Alan McDonald not throwing quite the same volume as Kyle, but like he's got some heavy hands. Like he's got like I assume he types with like rolls of quarters in his hands.
Andre always coming strong.
Yeah, Andre coming
with the stats.
Strong. Yeah. I'm gonna give this one to Alan. I think.
Oh, all right.
I had a couple takes that really stuck in my mind, even though like I feel like Lougheed outlanded everybody else put together. You know?
So I'll give it to Kyle just for that on my side because he's one of the guys always in there. He's always great. Also, Sword Song was up there as his first time, but yeah, Kyle was keeping it strong the whole night. So there you guys have it. We're gonna do this all again with another loaded card. We're going to break down all the fights. We're going to tape it this week. We have UFC 270, 2 title fights on the line. We have a much-anticipated rematch between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington. And if it was anywhere close to their first fight, we're in for a treat, as their first fight was a Fight of the Night candidate. Then we have another rematch with Rose Namajunas, this time being the champion, taking on Weili Zhang. We also have an unbelievable, just violent, personified matchup between
John Volante and Chris Barnett.
Okay, that's it. That's what I was thinking of. I wasn't thinking of Justin Gaethje versus Michael Chandler.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking of that one. So we'll be doing all this, guys. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff. We want to continue to make this going. We apologize for any technical difficulties on the front. I think it was because of the pouring rain, but luckily it seemed like we were problem-free after that. Guys, thank you so much. We'll see you all back in a week. Tell your friends to join us. He's Ben. I'm Keith. Talk to you next time.